Welcome back, everyone. My guest today is very multifaceted, very, very interesting. She's a top OnlyFans creator. She's an entrepreneur. She's a lover of meditation. And she actually coaches other girls, other content creators when it comes to being successful on OnlyFans. Please welcome Miss Isabella James. How you doing, Isabella?
Hi. Thank you for having
Of
me.
course, definitely, definitely. I want to ask you about a couple things. I haven't heard anybody ask you about this. You're originally from Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is like, a little bit of a dichotomy here. Can you talk about like, what was your life? A lot of people probably want to know, what was your life growing up like in Wisconsin? Was it very structured? Was it very strict? What was that like?
Yeah, no, because I always think it's like I escaped the Midwest
Yeah.
because I'm very much like a Cali girl, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived there until I was 8, and then briefly again when I was a teenager, and I was very much a Wisconsin girl. I was eating, KFC. I was like just doing that whole thing. But what's interesting is that my family was like still very like eccentric, but it was like very like traditional. Like I would go play with my cousins at my grandma's, and I wasn't on like a farm or anything like that. But it was like just very Midwest energy. And I feel like everybody in my family or I knew back then, like still live there and just like aren't doing anything with their lives. So I'm just like so happy that I ended up moving and especially where I am now.
Okay. So now here's my next question. When you go back home, I imagine, do you have family members still there? Do you ever go back for Christmas?
I never go
Okay.
there.
All right. Have you gone back at
No,
all since you had the
no,
Isabella James glow up? No, nothing.
no.
'Cause I'm
Oh my
always
God.
I'm always interested when a girl has like a big glow up or gets a bunch of followers or what I'm saying, looks
Yeah.
completely different or got herself in like ridiculously good shape and she goes back home and all of a sudden people who are like judgmental or making fun of her are all of a sudden like looking at her new fucking Tesla and the 5-bedroom mansion she just bought. So I'm just curious if that
Yeah.
had ever happened to you. Do you ever go back home and have an issue like that with any judgmental family members? Because I do.
So no, I can't. Yeah, you
Yeah.
showed me your
Yeah.
pre glow up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, so no, I had honestly have not been there since I was 14 years old. I don't talk to any of my like family that lives there. Except like if I wanted to go on Facebook, they won't talk to me. And it's not like I don't think they have anything against me, but just and I'm sure other people can relate that, there's a certain people that will like only comment on your posts and interact with you that way. But if you want to be like, hey, text me, they like don't care. It's like
Yeah.
this weird shift of like reality we've had. But honestly, I'm the black sheep, which is, I'm sure relatable content for a lot of people in my industry, especially. But I just don't fuck with any of them because like they're just not doing anything with their lives. They're not supportive people. And I have like a foster family that live in Arizona. I lived in Arizona most of my life. So I when I go like visit my family, I go visit them and they're like they're literally the most wholesome people in the world. Like they're like church goers and just like very like suburban, like super normal. And they love me. Like we just don't like they don't ask me about my job. They don't talk like ask me about my surgery. Like literally like I go there and we just like play board games at night. And it's like just so nice, like it's because like I love what I do, but it's like nice to do kind of like normal stuff. And then I mean, obviously I knew people in Arizona my whole life, but a couple of years ago I was already in the industry. But I had like my spiritual awakening and I literally just stopped talking to everybody. And I
Mm,
was like, none of these people have like helped me
right.
in my life or adding value in my life. And so I'm like, I don't need any of them. So like I've, created new friendships and relationships a lot through like the industry and stuff like that. And I do have like Monica, I have Fitsit. I have a couple friends that live out in Arizona, so I go and see them when I go see my family. But I don't put myself in situations that anyone can be like questioning me because I don't believe that I need to have people in my life that are going to like question me or judge me in that way.
2 weeks ago, we had Brandy Andrews on here. One of the things she talked about, she was like, I had to cut a bunch of people out of my life. And she goes, I felt like an asshole. And I told her, I was like, as an entrepreneur, that sounds like the smartest fucking thing I've ever heard because you have to do that. Like, there's going to be a
Yeah.
point. Justin Waller was on here about a month ago, and he was like, I have a problem when I go back to Louisiana and there's a guy who can't pay his rent, and I got $100,000 payroll I got to make. Like, these are not, these are like, this person can't stand in my fire. And so, like, it's very difficult for us to have some of these conversations. So I can totally understand what you're saying. When you were growing up, in Arizona, was there a point, transition point? Like, what kind of kid were you growing up? The idea of you getting into adult work, was this something that you considered when you were in high school, or was this something that just came to you much later?
So yeah, not, long story short, everything had like a very chaotic upbringing, and, nobody in my family was like, I hate to say, was honorable. There's nobody that I really could like look up to. And like, I always knew I was like meant for more.
Mm.
And, but didn't have that exact thing. I wasn't like being an overachiever or anything. I was like very much like living in my like trauma and like, pain body at that time. And I remember though when I was like 12, I was like really into like Paris Hilton and just like all
Yeah.
the like just like designer shit and everything. And I was like, I would love to be a model. And so I always had like I had like big naturals before I had surgery. And such a
Wait,
weird
you had
thing.
surgery? Hold on, this is a news. Did you guys know this? Yeah, Travis, she had surgery. Did you know this?
Really? I couldn't.
Where did you have surgery? We're confused. I'm not even
I've
aware.
had three breast augmentations.
Girl, shut the
and
fuck. You don't have to lie just because you're on my podcast. We know they're real. Stop it.
The shocker.
The shocker. Yes.
But yeah, I've always had that, like, I'm only 5'1". I'm a petite girl, so I've always
You're
been, like,
5'1"? Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Okay, I
Yeah.
had no idea. Have you ever met Paris Hilton?
No.
I got to interview her one time for 3 hours. We did
Really?
So she was I was a videographer, and I hosted a bikini competition with Crystal Hefner, Hugh Hefner's wife, over at Rehab.
Yeah.
And so I was a videographer when Paris came to perform, and then afterwards we did an interview with her, and I sat in this hotel room with her, and it was like 3 hours, and I kept waiting for like security to show up, and it didn't. And here's the thing, it's really crazy. When the cameras are off, she is this highly intellectual, like very, very articulate woman. When the cameras are on, she is Marilyn Monroe. And it was just, it was really interesting to watch. It was funny because when I'm interviewing her, she sets up her own lighting. She goes, "Oh, do you want me to do this?" She pulls out, I'm not lying, I have video of this. She pulls out pliers and a fucking screwdriver and this is Paris Hilton. At this point, she's probably worth $800 million. She pulls out pliers and a fucking screwdriver and puts together her own lighting for my fucking video rig. And I'm just like, all of us in the room are just looking at each other like, is this real? And then Baron Hilton, he like walks down, he's like, hi. He was like, walks down from the top. And I'm like, what the fuck I kept waiting for someone to like take us out of the room. And she sat there and talked to us for like hours and hours. It was crazy. Yeah. No,
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's like, and it's like now I look back at it where it's like, I was aware of it then, but it's like being 12 years old, you don't think about that stuff. But I'm like, I always have like looked up to her because I'm like, she plays the fucking part, you know? And it's like, that's how I feel. Or I'm like, I really feel like I'm catfishing people sometimes online. So I'm just like, oh, happy little bimbo. And then it's like, you hear me talk and I'm like, dude, like, I'm not dumb at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I know what I'm doing. I know what sells. And I enjoy how I look too. So it's like, it all goes together. But what you were saying earlier, I said to my stepdad, I was like, I would love to be a model one day, but I'm like, my boobs are too big. And he's like, oh, but like, look at Anna Nicole Smith.
Yes.
I was like, okay, because I was like years ago. But I was like really into like fashion and stuff then. And then I just like stopped caring about pretty much everything and went through like my whole, dark night of the soul for years and years and everything. And just was like kind of like fucking around. And then how I got into the industry though, is that I started dating somebody that did like not full gay porn, but
hold on. Can I skip ahead here? Because you said this on No Jumper. You said he did softcore gay porn, and they asked you what was the softcore gay porn. You said he just gave blowjobs, and I was like, hold on, time out. Hold on, technical foul. Hold on, that is not softcore gay porn. So can you go into this? No, by the way, you also said gay for pay, which by the way, no offense to anybody out there, I don't think there's such a thing as gay for pay. I don't think that's a real thing.
But no, I mean, are you kidding me? There's so many girls in the industry that don't like girls that just do it.
Guys who are gay for pay. I don't really think that's a thing.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I don't.
I'm
think
not a guy, so
yeah. Go ahead. What happened? So you're dating this guy, and then you felt like it was okay for you to do it because he was also filming porn.
Exactly, because like and you hang out with somebody and they drink, like, oh, okay, like maybe drinking's okay. It's the same concept, like anything, And I was just like in a really sad place at the time, so like I was very just susceptible to like any energy, And yeah, like he had stopped. He was in this like it was called Frat Pad, and it was like this like webcam house of just all these like frat looking guys, and he had like just stopped filming that, and then they would have him do like films outside that get like paid or whatever. And I mean, I actually have watched them back in the day,
Did
but it
any
was
of it
just
did
like
it ever make you jealous to see your dude with another guy?
no.
Yeah, it's funny because
No, well, we were in an open, like when we were dating too, we were in an open relationship.
okay.
So like literally, he was fucking girls. He would like tell dudes to come home with me from the club, and then like get mad about it though. It was like really
Really?
toxic, weird shit. Yeah,
So like,
it was.
oh,
Yeah,
interesting. Okay.
yeah, and then even like, and we had like foursomes and stuff, but he wouldn't like do anything with the guy. Like, but all me and our friends all were like, he's pretty, flamboyant and
Hey, by the way,
stuff. So
there's no judgment.
no,
I have good friends that are homosexual, and I have clients that are
yeah.
homosexual. It's just the idea that a heterosexual man is going to take a little bit of money and then start giving blowjobs. I just don't think you understand what it's like being a heterosexual man. If you believe that's real, I'm sorry, I just don't. And again, there's no judgment whatsoever. It's totally fucking cool. Like I like.
No, but like also I dated somebody who would pretend to be gay to get like free drugs.
Bro, how about pretend
And
to be
he
gay
was
to get girls? I've seen that too. Like that is gay
yes.
game. Oh,
But
let
I'm
me tell.
like,
I've never told the story before, but I just want to tell you real quick. There's
okay.
these two guys that were like dating coaches, and they made this video where they walked up to this girl and they were like, "Oh my God, we're in love. We're gay. I fuck like 300 guys. Oh my God, I love having sex with all these. I don't even want to be with one guy. I want to be with multiple guys." And they asked the girl on camera. They're like, "How many guys have you been with?" And she goes, "Like maybe 70." And then later on, the same girl has an interaction with a different guy, and they're talking whatever, and then they get into the conversation, and then the guy asks her, "Like, so how many guys have you been with?" And she goes, "5." Same girl, same girl.
Wow.
Then the first group come up to her and they're like, "Hey, we just want to let you know we were filming you, and just we're not gay. We're not actually gay." The girl started getting violent with them, started punching them, hitting them because you're like, "I can't believe you did this. You tricked me." Yada yada yada. They had to pull the video down off YouTube because of
Wow.
what was going on. It was really crazy. This girl was like, she felt the need to tell one thing to one person and another thing to another person, and got called out. It was very, very ugly.
That's what happens though. You gotta keep it real with
No, I know some
everyone,
guys who I've seen some guys pretend to be gay to get girls, and it works because the shield is not up. Like especially in your position, I have no doubt that whatsoever, unless you're in like a formal situation like maybe AVNs or something like that, you're going to probably have a guard up or even maybe a security guard with you when you walk around and you meet your fans, right? That's what's going to happen. If
Yeah.
one of your fans comes up and he's very flamboyant, you're probably not going to have as much of a guard up.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, oh, he's, one of the girls.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, but the other person I dated that would be, gay for drugs. Like he was very flamboyant
Mm.
too. So it's like, art imitates life.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly right.
but
Yes.
but yeah, because I remember they're like, because they're just no offense, they're just a different culture over on No Jumper.
Did you find men who were like a little bit more metro to be more attractive? Because I know some women that's what they
Yeah,
really find that. Why do you think that is?
yeah.
Was there something early in
Um,
your life that turned you towards that?
I think, honestly, like all of my like adult figures in my younger life were very like my dad was like a lead singer of like a punk rock band,
Okay,
and he
got
was
it.
like wearing eyeliner and being, like more eccentric. So like that was like normal to me. And then like people like were just where I had like family in like the Renaissance fair and just like, kind of like theatrical kind of thing.
Did
So
you
it's
ever
like
go
I could totally see that.
Did you ever go LARPing at the Renaissance Fair?
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah,
did?
yeah. No, I worked when I was younger. I like sold roses. I was like in the parade and stuff.
So fucking fun. Are you watching Game of Thrones? How are you not
I
watching?
don't
So shame
I
on
don't
you.
watch TV.
Okay, all right. Maybe
I
you
literally
should.
don't own a TV.
That's no excuse. All right, that's
Yeah.
okay. It's incredible. So you're doing that, and then you have your situation with your family. Oh, I was going to say this before. I have some female friends they tend to be more attracted to more guys who are less
Yeah.
masculine, a little bit more metrosexual. And what I found is that with some of them, this is not the case with you because you didn't say this, is that they dealt with a man previously who was hyper aggressive, hyper masculine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they tend to be attracted to men who are like never initiate sexual contact. They never initiate any kind of
Mm.
physical intimacy or whatever. And they're confused. They think that these guys are just like less aggressive when in reality they're attracted to men. So that's something that I've seen happen before.
So that's a difference. The people I've dated such an array of people, but
Yeah.
I'm attracted to guys that are like more muscular and manly, but then are like more, I guess, more metro, not
So like,
necessarily. I have dated guys that are like beta, and I'm not really into that. I don't like to be like, why don't you want to have sex with me? You
you
know?
mean beta as in like submissive, like dom submissive beta? Is that what you mean?
Just more beta, like you said, just not as like aggressive. And
Okay.
like I dated a guy like, let's say for like 2 months, and we had sex like 2 times. Like, and he was just like, I think he was like asexual. He was just not into it, but we would hang out all the time. We'd like cuddle and everything. But it was like super frustrating for me because I'm like, dude, there's so many guys that want to fuck me. Like, what, like, what is this, So
Yeah.
it's like I don't like that. I like a happy medium of I was in a 2-year relationship that was literally no matter how much I was having sex, it was like never enough,
Right.
and it was like I was constantly like on guard about that, and that was like the only way that this guy like felt like he was loved, and it was like super traumatizing. It was like such a mind fuck, and even more
Oh,
so is
he
that
felt that way. He felt that. So
yeah.
he needed to consistently be validated by having sex all the time.
Yeah, where it was like, oh, if I didn't want to, he would like berate me
Mm.
about it. And it was just like super wild. And the craziest part is that he was very aware of it. He was looking up like the like red pill theory and like
Oh
all that
shit!
kind of
We've
stuff.
already gotten into red pill theory. Holy shit! Yes, Rollo Tomasi, who wrote The Rational Male, he's coming on next Friday. The guy who,
Oh,
who wrote
cool.
the main book from the red pill thing. He's coming on next Friday. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
so it's so interesting. Where
yeah,
I'm just like, if you weren't so obsessed about it, then I would be more amped to have sex.
yeah.
We were literally dated 2 years. We lived together. And like and in the beginning it was good, but it's like just with anything, it's like the more you like want it, the more it's like you kind of push it away, and like that's why we ended up splitting up and everything. And I still talk to him, not even really as friends. We have like some business together. But and the craziest part to me is that he was very aware of it. Like he was
Mm.
very aware of all the manipulation he was doing, and like he would tell me. And I've actually gone to him about different guys that I've dated since then, and be like, oh, like they did this and that, and he'll tell me exactly like why they said that and what they were like trying to do by saying that. And to me, that's even crazier because I feel like a lot of like narcissists don't even like realize it, but I'm like, he's very aware of it.
That's
He
crazy.
is quote spiritual and like is really into self-development, yet he just does these like crazy ass things. And
Have
I'm
you
just like,
have you ever looked up cluster B? Have you ever studied like cluster B personality disorders? So narcissism, sociopathy, and borderline. You know what I'm talking about?
no, I'm aware about narcissism and then borderline because I felt like I had it, but I really
So,
don't think I ever did.
if you've had borderline, this is kind of what borderline is, right? So, a lot of people
Hmm.
confuse borderline for manic depression or bipolar.
Mm,
Borderline. So, there's a mood disorder and a personality disorder. Personality disorder, there's really no treatment for. These have to do with neurochemical pathways.
okay.
A mood disorder, you can actually take medication for it, like beta blockers and stuff like that. Mood
Yeah.
disorder. So, like you know how like a broken clock is right twice a day. You're going to have normal mood, even if you're manic depression. You're going to have periods of normal mood, right? But if you have a personality
Hmm.
disorder, so for instance, someone who's a sociopath is never going to feel empathy for 1 second in his entire life. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
someone who's a narcissist is never going to feel compassion for other people for 1 second in their entire life. Or they have empathy, but it's
Wow.
misguided empathy. Someone with borderline personality disorder, it would be like he didn't call you back, so you fucked his brother. That would be borderline personality disorder, right?
Okay,
Yeah, so
never
that's why when you say that,
mind.
I don't think you have borderline personality. Everything's a nuclear response. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
borderline personality disorder is based around trauma that has to do with abandonment, right? That's the main
Yes.
thing, right?
Yes.
So sociopathy is genetic. I know some people have the different beliefs about this. Read Dr. Martha Stout's book, The Sociopath Next Door. Sociopathy, pretty much when you take monozygotic twins and you put them in different families, if one of them is a sociopath, the other one tends to be a sociopath most of the time. Sociopathy is most likely genetic. Narcissist is probably a combination of two. Borderline personality disorder tends to be like something developmental where there's a massive amount of abandonment. And so what happens is anytime you feel like there's a threat of abandonment, therefore I need to go fuck his friend. I need to go protect myself with I need to go do the nuclear option. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't really get the vibe from you that was like that. Maybe a mood
No.
disorder, but I don't get the vibe that you have a personality disorder. Also, like you love your cats, right?
Yeah.
Right? You're like, if somebody was like, it's the cats or me, Michael, then you can go, right? That's for me. That's how.
Okay. I've never. Yeah.
Right. But
I've definitely. I'm a very different person than I used to be, and
yeah,
that's why I'm like maybe I had it, but I was never like that.
Yeah, it's incurable. If you have if you have personality disorder, it's not really. I mean, there are certain treatments for borderline, but it's very very difficult. Like it's very like
Well, because I thought it was only stemmed from environment as a child.
no. So narcissism and borderline, yes, there are some studies that show that it does stem from things as a child, but it's extremely difficult to overcome. Like to get treatment for borderline or for narcissism. Most of the time, people will tell you if you're dealing with a narcissist, just get away. Yeah, narcissist. It's very difficult. Like so you have a mental disorder, which basically tells you that you don't have a problem. How the fuck are you going to get help for that? You understand what I'm saying? It's almost like it's like someone who's like morbidly obese and keeps eating like shit, and you tell them you're going to die, and they're like, "No, I'm good." Like, what? How you can help them? That's just the same problem with narcissism. It's like you have a mental disorder that's causing you massive amounts of problems, and you don't want help. There's a difference. A narcissist does not want help. A person with narcissistic personality disorder has gone to see a therapist and wants to try to change their life. Those are two different things, even though they're the same
Then
thing.
what about codependence? Then?
So codependency is not a. It's not a personality disorder. Codependency is not in the DSM as far as mad, bad, or sad. Codependency is like almost like passive aggressive behavior. Passive aggressive behavior is I'm trying to think of the best way to explain. It's not a diagnostic fucking disorder thing. Does that make sense? It's just bad behavior. For instance, people who talk shit about each other. Tomorrow, I'm interviewing Alexandra Rose from Selling the OC. I know you don't watch TV, but it's one of these reality shows where these real estate agents just fucking talk shit about each other the whole time.
I've heard of that show, yeah.
There you go. So I'm interviewing her tomorrow. I watched all 8 episodes and like it's the most toxic shit I've ever seen in my life. I want to shake these motherfuckers and be like, go have a conversation with each other. Stop doing this. If you ever at the end of Romeo and Juliet, what happens? They don't communicate with each other, so they both fucking commit suicide, right? That's what happens.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the issue. Like with passive aggressive people, it's not a mental disorder. It's just it's an extremely unhealthy way of behavior. Just like lying to somebody would be an unhealthy manner of behavior. Codependency is like a developmental thing. I don't know where it fits as far as the DSM is concerned, but that has to do with I can't make decisions without your approval or without your help, or I need you to. And I have this issue a lot of times where like there's somebody in my life who doesn't deserve my approval, and yet I always want their approval. That would be a codependency.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
That's right. Like people pleasing.
Also, your ex who said he needed sex all the time and consistently needed validation, that would be maybe a tendency of codependency.
Yeah. See, and that's what's interesting. I'd love to talk about this too, is that the way social media is like so black and white about stuff, because it's like, it's like, oh, if somebody's nice to you within, X amount of time, then they're a narcissist. Like they're faking it. Or if like I was like, damn, I like to give people gifts. Am I a narcissist? And then even with like codependency, it's like, oh, if you date a narcissist and like you like feed off of their energy, like you're codependent. Or it's like, even with any of these things, I'm like, I don't think that's what I've literally had to stop like reading stuff on social media or situationships.
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 rules. The first rule is this one Dr. Martha Stout has when it comes to sociopathy. And sociopathy, all sociopaths are also narcissists. However, only 40% of people with borderline personality disorder are narcissists. Okay. And then if you go look at the numbers, I don't necessarily agree with these numbers. I think they're much higher, but about 4.5% of the population are sociopaths. Something like 6% of the population end up having borderline personality disorder. And then there's also this other bias where men tend to be overdiagnosed with sociopathy and women tend to be overdiagnosed with bipolar or with borderline. When reality, it's about Dr. Martha Stout believes they're equal, whereas Dr. David Buss believes that men tend to have sociopathy, when women tend to be more likely to be borderline. But anyway, the thing that you can look for, again, I would highly recommend anyone who has any questions about this, I would read Walking on Eggshells, which is a terrific book about borderline personality disorder, which is living with somebody with borderline. And then The Sociopath Next Door by Dr. Martha Stout is one of the most like paradigm shifting books I've ever read in my entire life. And then the Conquering the Sociopath Next Door, which is the second book that she wrote. The thing that I would tell you is one of the things she says is you give them 3 chances. Oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally fucked your girlfriend. Oh, I'm sorry, bro. I don't know. Like you have to understand, times are tough. That's why I can't pay you back this money. Oh yeah, no, man, I didn't show up for this thing. You give them 3 chances where something is clearly their fault and they choose to not take responsibility for it, and then you cut that person out of your life. Are they necessarily a sociopath or a narcissist? Maybe. The chances are they probably are. But the reality of the situation is this is not a healthy person for you to have a relationship with. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And then you
absolutely.
can go further than that. Like for instance, Amber Heard shitting in a bed would be a sign of histrionic personality disorder, stuff like that, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't care what people say. It's funny. She shit in a bed. That did happen, right? You can't take that. You can never take that
Yeah.
one back, right? But like
Yeah.
here's a great example. Amber Heard's not a sociopath because a sociopath would have never gone to trial and been exposed the way she was exposed. Amber Heard's a narcissist. She's a
Mm.
narcissist, so she believed that she was right. No matter what, I shit in the bed, but of course I shit in the bed because I'm married to Johnny Depp and he's a piece of shit, so I deserve to shit in the bed. That's the way she thinks. If
Yeah.
she was a sociopath, she'd be like, she would have left the country and never shown up for court, and they would have never had court proceedings, so she would have never gotten exposed. Does that make sense? That's the difference between a
Yeah.
sociopath and a narcissist. So that's, or someone who's just a narcissist. So that tends to be the difference, right? One of them's calculating, and the other one is just like so dumb and miscalibrated. Sorry, I'm going way too far, and I didn't mean to get into cluster.
No, I love
Okay,
it.
cool. Yeah, that's basically what this show is about. So
Yeah.
going back to what you said before, initially with your boyfriend, a lot of times people
Yeah.
will think they're dating a narcissist when they're just dating a guy who just wanted to lie just so he could fuck other girls. But like the thing is, you said you were in an open relationship, so that doesn't seem to be like super likely. But the other thing I was going to ask you was about in this time the original reason we asked this question was you started doing, we'll just call it traditional studio porn, and he was,
Yeah.
and because he was doing studio porn, that's what caused you to get into that. And you also contrasted studio porn with what you do on OnlyFans. Can you talk about, because there's a lot of girls right now who are like, I'm not doing well on my OF, and I'm thinking, and I got a call from Brazzers, and maybe I should do this. Can you talk about the contrast between those two things?
Absolutely. So I only did one traditional scene. And I'll be real, I needed rent. And since the guy I was dating, did traditional scenes, I felt like, oh, I was like, oh, this is okay.
He
Like
did.
this
Hold on,
is,
he did
this is
soft.
normal.
He did softcore blowjob porn.
Yeah. So when I was gonna say this earlier, when it was softcore, because it was, to me, it was very like intimate, It wasn't like fucking. Like I was like, that's, to me, it's softcore. Like nubile.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm crying. Hey, do you want to know the funny? I've never brought this up on the show, but this is like the funniest study I've ever heard. They asked
Okay.
men. They asked men, you receiving a blowjob, what percentage of men believe that that's cheating? 40% of men said that that was not cheating. Then they asked the same group of men, if your girlfriend gives a blowjob, what percentage of men thought that was cheating? 97% of men said that that was cheating.
Of course.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
like my favorite study ever. Anyway.
And that's what's and then it's like so different with like the industry,
Yeah, for sure.
because it's like, obviously if you're with somebody, then I would hope you'd have some sort of like, hey, it's, this is work, this is whatever. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, back to that. So I did like a scene, needed money, and that was literally the only traditional scene I ever did. It was literally a decade ago. And yeah, it's such a difference because like, luckily it was a traditional scene because it's for a studio, but it wasn't like, and I'm not lazy or anything, but like when you're shooting for browsers and all that, like you're on set for like 8 to 12 hours. You're doing exactly what they're telling you to do, probably like 15 times. And it's like very out of your own control.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no way in hell that I would be doing what I'm doing if it was through that. And shout out, love the industry girls, love everybody worked with who's done pro porn. That's just like not my thing.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that like I can create any, like today I'm like, okay, what content am I going to create? What am I going to bring into the world? Like there's girls that, obviously aren't even doing explicit content on OnlyFans, but it's like, even if you are, it's like, maybe you're only doing solo, maybe you're only doing this, you're not doing anal, like, or just, certain fantasies you're not fulfilling because you don't feel comfortable with that. And like, that's what I think part of it is why people like the pro porn is because they know like, oh yeah, like they're getting fucked by these big dicks and like somebody's telling them to do it. And it's like, I think that's like a big part of the like pro versus like amateur fantasy.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then
because
I
have a lot of guys that are like, they're like, oh, we'd love to see you do pro porn. I'm like, why? Because it's borderline rape. Honestly, like I know not all of it, but it's always very violent and very aggressive to the what. Not always. Typically, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
it's like I feel like that's like a big part of it. And people that are so deep down their pornography addiction, like that's the kind of stuff they have to see to get off. Unfortunately.
Nara Ford, she was on here and she talked about she would just organically have a threesome. Like she would have a girl, like they would go out with her and whoever she was seeing, and then they would just be like, "Fuck it, let's just film." or people would just film like being lazy on the couch watching TV together, and like that has not it's nothing like 12-hour days on set with Brazzers, you know what I'm saying? Where you have like a 1 hour,
Yeah.
you have a mandated 1 hour 45-minute lunch break, you know what I'm saying? It's very different. So
Yeah. It's very like almost like being an entrepreneur versus being in corporate,
yeah.
you know, and in the industry way. And like that's like the other day I went and got filler and I had guys tip to, you know, that are like into that fetish. So it's like I just filmed like me
To
getting
watch
filler
you get
and
filler.
yeah, so I made like a little video like, hey, you know, like before and like here's my numbing stuff and like show like the needles and like here's it after. Cause I have like my niche is like bimbofication, you
Okay.
know, or like bimbo fetish. So it's like they love like the surgeries and like just, you know, like
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. They're like really into that. And some guys are like really into my ex I was talking about, he was like really into plastic surgery. So it's like he would love like talking about like the specific things and like he was like when I wanted to get my boobs done to XXL, he already knew the doctor. Like he was like, I was like, I got you. And he's like, with my butt implants, he like found the best doctor to go to and stuff like that. That was like his thing. So
I still can't get over that you're 5'1". That I did not think you were 5'1".
why?
For some reason you just seem like athletic and taller. I don't know why, but you
Oh,
you got the vibe. You were
yeah.
taller.
My photographer will take pictures and she's all like, you like with my legs, like high position. She's like, you look hella tall. But I'm like, I'm hella short.
Okay. Yeah.
See, I told you I'm catfishing out
There
here.
you go. Catfishing the shit out of me. Yeah. All
But
right.
hey guys, look at no filter. This is me.
There we
So
go. There we go. You were dancing for a while too before this in
yeah.
Arizona.
So yeah, no, not Arizona. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for like 3 years. So I danced,
Military.
I'd say no. So that's where I moved with the gay for pay boyfriend.
Got it. Yeah.
So we met in Arizona and then he like didn't know what he was doing with his life. So he had like a sugar daddy that was like, come out and live out here. And he moved there for like a month and then he was like, let me fly you out here. I ended up like living out there and it was like so wild. And then after that whole situation kind of dissolved somewhat, like I just didn't live with him anymore. And then I was like, well, what am I gonna do? And then of course I had like my best friend who's like, come dance with me. And then I started doing that whole thing. I had sugar daddies and just did that whole fantasy for like 2 years. And then I was like, I gotta go back to Arizona. Like this is not like my life. And then when I got back to Arizona, I was like, I don't want to do like in-person stuff anymore. I'm like, I want to get into webcamming and I want to do like online stuff. So like I like sat down for like a week and like researched all the different sites and just I had done it like here and there, but like nothing serious. But I was like, you know, familiar with the idea, obviously. So yeah, I just like figured out what I wanted to do. I got on StreamMate and I didn't mean to start doing femdom, but like I was like had like a bratty attitude. So it became like Bratty Bella was like my first persona. And I was doing like femdom stuff. And then I started doing Snapchat because I was like the thing. And
That
I
was
had
the
a
thing.
friend.
Yeah.
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 And she was like, you know, I just doing like a random photo shoot. The photographer was like, here's my friend, you know, and she's like, oh, let's do Snapchat, you know, like I'm already doing it. And I was like, oh, I can make a lot more money with less energy, you know, because with femdom, it was a lot of just one-on-one stuff. I can make a lot more money doing I call if it's not femdom to me, it's like vanilla, just like, you know, kind of normal shit that people like the just fucking and all that and masturbating.
It's interesting because like the scalability. So I have a coaching product, right? And then I know some other people that have ebooks, and then I have other people who like, you know, they do different things. They give speeches, but those speeches will be filmed. There's a scalability to it where you can 10x your income. Well, you can't do that as a stripper. Like there's only so much money you can make a lot of money, but like when you get on OF, the possibility of you scaling is, and the funny thing is, right? So I have a team that writes writes an offer for me, and then we film a video sales letter, and we film ads, and then we have an entire sales funnel that the people go through before they buy my product. OF kind of does all of that for you. OF has kind of a built-in. It builds the funnel for you, which is really interesting. Their model, like it is not the most advanced website. And for those of you who don't know, because they violate terms of service, there is no OnlyFans app. There can't be because the App Store would not allow an adult app on their store. So therefore, OnlyFans is only web based, and because of that, there's some
Yeah.
significant structural problems with the website. However, it's still better because of the networking effect, where you can tag other girls that are content creators, and that's the reason why people are able to grow on there so fast. So that's pretty interesting. But like, I'm very curious, when you're doing this and you decide to start dancing. Oh, actually, the thing I wanted to ask you, because there's a lot of girls, the term of the idea of grooming has been in the news lately, like, especially with this whole Brittany Renner, PJ Washington thing that has happened recently. And then also, there's controversy with Andrew Tate. You mentioned before that you had a boyfriend that groomed you into going into some business that you didn't approve of initially. Can you go into that?
Yeah, so this was the gay for bay guy. And so yeah, what happened is I moved to Charlotte, or it was like outside of Charlotte. And like he had money. We had money. His sugar daddy was like, had a nice apartment, any money we needed, like designer, all of this. So it wasn't like even that. It was literally I had a roommate. I like kind of dipped and everything. I'm like, I'm not gonna be a bitch and not pay for rent. So I'm like, like, and so in his mind, he forced me into prostitution to like initially to like pay for that rent. But it was always just more of like a power thing. And yeah, a lot of people, be like, how were you forced? Like, how is like trafficking happening? But it's like, okay, first of all, I was on a lot of Xanax. And I was, in a situation in another state with somebody where, I felt like I had nothing else and nowhere else to go or turn to. And it's like a mental thing. And people don't realize that, especially it's like, you hear about, or you see the things in the airport, like if you're being trafficked, and I'm sure, most people would be like, wouldn't they just say something? But it's like, no, because you're literally groomed into like thinking that this shit is okay. And typically like, oh, like, you're worthless and like you have to do this, or like just stuff like that. And I actually almost got sold into actual trafficking be through that. I met this gentleman through shout out Not Around Anymore Backpage. And so my boyfriend was I don't think he really liked the idea, but like he was still like whatever about it. I literally went to New York with this guy, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna, be a backup dancer and like all this shit." And then he's like, "Oh, you have charges that you need to pay for. So like, I need to like trick you out basically." And like literally he was like taking me to go get photos done. And like he took my phone at this point. Like I deactivated my Facebook. I'm literally in fucking like Brooklyn, New York. I do not know anybody. And this guy's like, if I killed you, if I shot you, like nobody would hear. And he would like just say like fucked up shit to me, like, oh, like you're an alcoholic and like all this. So I was like, like bringing down like my self-esteem and everything. We were literally on the way to take this photo shoot, and some guy like asked, we went to pick up food, and some guy was like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a backup dancer. And he's like, no, he's like, you have too big of a mouth, like you need to call somebody and fucking get a ticket home. Like I can't deal with you, because he realized that like I wasn't gonna be quiet and I was probably gonna say some shit and he was gonna get in trouble. So like I was like, shout out to me for having a loud mouth, but I look back and like I had no idea that's really what was going on, because I was already like groomed into like this is like normality. Like, oh, it's okay to be doing this. And it's like, it is okay if like that's your choice, and I think that the adult industry in general gets like a lot of bad rep, because it's like, how would a girl do this? Like, how would this be her choice? But it's like, and the way that I'm able to do it now, I'm like, this is my choice. Like, I'm choosing to do this. It's not that someone's like making me feel like I need to have sex with somebody for money as like a power trip or to get money for them or anything. Like, this is all my choice. And like, that's what's like been so empowering with it since I've been doing it like on my own.
I really appreciate you talking about this, because there are probably girls and maybe some guys who are watching this right now who don't even recognize the walls that are built around them. The fact that they are being trafficked or groomed or something to that extent, and having somebody as successful as you come out and say, "Hey, this is something that I actually went through, and this is what it looked like." All of a sudden, you're not allowed to talk to this person, and I don't want you posting on this, and they get excessively controlling, and you don't recognize what's going on. Brandy Andrews was on here, and she said, "I was confusing violence for love." He's like, whenever a guy would go ahead.
No, yeah, like that was it was yes, that's very much in it too. And it's like you become in this like disgusting, like toxic, passionate relationship. I don't know if you ever heard about with Marilyn Manson and that young girl he was dating. And it
No.
was like that too, where it was like he was just doing like this crazy like sexual abuse to her, but he'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill myself if you leave me," and like
Yeah.
just shit like that. So it's like it keeps you like, "Oh, I have to be with this person," or like I remember when I was dating, he's no longer with us. His name was Sasha. I used to self mutilate myself, and I hadn't in a long time. But he saw my scars, and like literally one night he was fucked up, and he did it. And he's like, "Oh, I only did this because you've done it
But
before." And then like
that's
I did it, and it was like this is so
Isabel.
toxic.
That's what borderline looks like. What
Oh
you're
yeah,
that
yeah, he
that's
was
actually what borderline looks like. Yeah, I'm gonna mutilate
yeah,
myself. It's a lot like there's a lot of threats. I mean, they may carry them out, but there's a lot of threats of suicide because they want attention that way, rather than
oh that's definitely him.
to avoid the pain of abandonment. That's generally where that comes from. That's interesting. No, but
Wow.
I'm really glad that though that you came out and you would at least express that something like that would happen because again, you're in a place right now. You understand a girl might look at you and be like, she films with whoever she wants to film, wherever she wants to film. She makes a lot of money, and the fact that you can't. It seems like you were always there, and the fact that you came from a different place, I
Yeah.
think, is important for other people to hear that this is something you can get away from, and that you do have self worth regardless of what some motherfucker is telling you.
Yeah, and that's why I've always been very open about my story. And I was actually going to create a memoir, but I was like, to me, I'm like, people don't need to know every single detail about my life. Like, they can know like things like this because it is empowering to know that, like, I literally used to be such a different person, like mentally, physically, spiritually. And I've completely changed that. Like, you can completely like change who you are. Like,
Mm.
we're able to rewire our brains because our personality is like what's been created like in this lifetime of like what we've experienced. So it's like, even if you're not in like the best situation, like you can still like start making changes in your life that will like change your reality for yourself.
Definitely, definitely. So the other thing I want to talk about was because you're doing so well, you're in the top 1% of OnlyFans creators. Girls have come to you for coaching, and you've been able to coach girls as far as what it is that they do. Can you talk about how have you gotten into that? Is that a career choice for you, or is it something you just do casually? And like, what are some of the things that you tell girls to do when they become content creators?
So I'm in the top 0.3%,
There
by
we
the
go. Okay.
way. There's no, I know not to be like that, but there is an extremely huge difference, and
For sure.
obviously
For
monetarily,
sure.
but like just everything, And so it's kind of both from what you said. A year ago, I was speaking at a small retreat for OnlyFans girls with another model who invited me to come and talk about business and everything. And I had a girl reach out to me and she's like, "Do you do coaching? Like you would be such a good coach." And I was like, "No, I don't, I'm just busy, whatever." And so I started doing it and I started coaching a lot of like the top girls that were making like around the same amount of money as me, but they just wanted, to see like what more out there, like how can I excel? And I love that because to me, it's like if you're already doing well, they're most likely actually going to utilize what I'm helping them with. But not all of them did. But the ones that did, you know, raise their income, which
Oh,
is like the name of the game.
so we're talking about like the type of content that you post because this is something that's always been fascinating for
Okay.
me. Like for me, I have different products that I'll sell, and one of them will get a huge markup, and one of them won't do as well, and it's never usually what I think. In your situation, I've heard girls be like, the more hardcore stuff I do, it actually kind of devalues my hardcore stuff, and like it actually is better if I do
Mm,
it, much less likely. And then I've had several girls come on here and be like, that my clients really like it. My subscribers really like it when I do vlogs where I have no makeup on and it's like completely natural. So it's different from what you think because in traditional porn, it's just go further, go further, go further, more, more, more. And in this, the with OnlyFans, it seems like they want to know you on a more personal level. So it's not always just how much hardcore porn can you do. Can you talk a little bit about like what
yeah.
things what type foot fetish, whatever, femdom, what is the thing that gets you probably the most ROI? Can you stack those? Can you stratify like which ones do the best for you?
Absolutely. I make and I yeah, actually did an article in Business Insider about like kind of my whole strategy that I did last year. But I like my 80% of my income comes from sexting. It's that personal connection. So it's like I have sex tapes, you know, I whatever, all that content. But it's like it is like that because it's like if they want that kind of stuff, they'll go to Pornhub.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're there because they want that personal connection. They want to think like I said, the me like a little mini vlog about getting my filler, or I started doing YouTube and I'll do like an uncensored vlog where I'll do like check-ins where I'm like, you know, topless, or like try on hauls, and like they love that because it's like it's beautiful too because it's humanizing us. Like a lot of like the more hardcore stuff like dehumanizes us, that we're just like these girl, like not even girls, like just these things, you know. A lot of like I hate that term, like, oh, you're my favorite thing. Like, no, I'm a fucking human being. Like,
Right.
I have feelings too. Like this, like sometimes I don't feel like fucking filming, and so I'm not gonna film. And I have that ability because of like all the content that I made and like the life that I've created for myself. But yeah, that's what I with the girls, and just with anything, you know, even if you don't even do explicit content, it's like creating that personal connection with your fans. And that's really what OnlyFans is about. And just that like connection of like, oh, you know, I have notes of like this guy's from here and this is what he's into. And like just so it's like these guys are lonely, and any or girls or whoever's coming on the site to do whatever kind of content. Like you're wanting to chat with somebody that you're paying to chat with them, you know, like it's like so create that like safe place and that experience for them. And like that's like my mission statement is like, you know, like I like to think that guys come and consume my content and they're not going to go cheat on their wife or, you know, sexually assault somebody or just like do something like
Right.
negative because they can express their fantasies in a safe place online. That's not going to hurt anybody.
Yeah, I would actually really be interested in the literature on that, the scientific literature on that, because there probably has been somebody who's done studies on that, like whether or not people are more or less likely to cheat based on whether or not they watch porn. That's interesting. Well, the other thing I was going to ask is, so for a lot of people who aren't familiar with OnlyFans, with the sexting thing, you're texting and like each message going back and forth is like $5 or $2 or something like that.
Yeah, it's more than
Oh, it's
that.
more than that. Okay.
Yeah, because it's like exactly because it's like you can go say like and everyone has different price points. And
Mhm.
I, you know, when I coach girls, I'm like, I'm not trying to tell you to devalue yourself because I used to go and sell videos for $40, you
Mm.
know, and then I realized it's all literally my job is 90% marketing, 10% content.
Yes.
And it's like yeah, so it's like, you know, getting myself out there, you know, the exposure, but it's also like there's girls that have millions of followers that make less than me because they don't know how to, you know, work their fans.
Mm.
And this is not, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are fans watching this, and it's not a negative way. It's like this is a business. So it's like the guys that get mad about not wanting to pay for stuff. It's like, listen, this is how I provide. I'm providing a service, you know, and you want this service. Like, you know, let's not ruin the fantasy, babe. Like, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
um, but it's that connection. It's like, you know, sending clips back and forth and chatting and everything. And like, yes, there is a paywall because that's what it is. It's the same concept as like you're at a strip club.
Mm.
You know, it really much is it. It's like I have a lot of like free entry or it's like $3. And then it's like you come in, it's like if you want to have more fun, you're gonna be tipping for dances or for, you know, for whatever. And it's the same concept. It's like, okay, here I post fucking 12 times a day on my feed. Like I provide a lot of like free content. So it's like, but if you want like the good stuff, yeah, like you're gonna have to pay. And if you want to just, you know, watch a video, like yeah, that's cheaper. But if you want to actually sit there and chat with me and interact and like get off together, like that's gonna be a more premium price.
Right. We had Amber Marie. She came on here, and I was joking with her because I was like, you know, one guy's the mailman, and the next guy's the pizza delivery guy, and the next guy's the Uber driver, and the next guy's the plumber, but it's all the fucking same guy. And she goes, no, it's not.
Yeah.
That was really my neighbor, and that was really my. No, it's not. I just got to ask you, and you can break the fourth wall here or not if you choose
Yeah.
to. When you choose to shoot with someone, is there usually an emotional connection with it, or do you ever choose to shoot with someone just strictly for professional reasons?
So yeah, no, I keep it 100 because that's the thing. Like as much as I could sit here and be like, yeah, exactly. Like, no, that was really it's a fucking fantasy. And I've
Yeah.
said this on other things too, so I don't mind it. I have filmed with people that I would say not in relationship with or in some sort of a connection, and I personally didn't like it.
Mm.
It just to me, I'm like, call me old fashioned. Like I like to have some sort of like even if it's not like an emotional connection, I
Well,
guess everything is, but it's not
it's
like,
probably a better scene too.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, because it's real chemistry.
yeah,
And that's the difference between that and like pro porn, where it's like a lot of times you're just like, just met this person, like, okay, now we're gonna fuck for like 12 hours. Like, it's just, and it's very like mechanical, and it's like, I like to have that connection. And the people that I did film with, it's just, that was it. Like, I actually filmed a scene with Monica and her husband, and it was great. He was great. Like, there was no, like, he was weird or anything, but I just personally, like, there wasn't that chemistry for
right.
me. So I like didn't continue to film with them. And like I said, I'm like, nothing, nothing personal. I just like, I like to have some sort of connection with somebody. Or even it's like, because it's like, even if you meet somebody on like Tinder or something like that, like, you're still gonna have that initial like kind of flirty moment where you like create that like energy, but it's not like, I shot a blowjob scene with like another, I guess, influencer, and we talked. I interviewed him, and like months before that, I was like, hey, he was cool. Like, the interview was great. Like, he's very like esoteric like me.
Did you film the interview?
And
Did you film the interview, or this was just for like professional reasons?
no, it was no, no. It's an interview. It's on my
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
And so I was like, maybe this is somebody I could film with, that it would
Yeah.
it would be cool, And so we were like at a content event together, and he was just like, oh, you want to film? I was like, sure. But I'm like, I'm only gonna give you a blowjob. Because it was already that thing, and and it's about following your like your energy and
Sure.
stuff like that. And I was like, not even really wanting to do it, but I was like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna do it, just kind of to see where I was at with all of that.
Yeah.
And it was like, as I said, call me a passion, but it's like not like we kissed or like anything. We're like, okay, this is the scene, okay, let's do this, let's do that. And it was just so weird. And some girls like that though. They don't want to have some guy be calling them babe and this and that. But it's like, personally, like, I'm like that. I'm sorry, like, I need a little like warm up to the act.
I was at dinner with a couple of my friends, and we were at Jing, and I'm not gonna say who they are, but if they hear this, they'll know who it is. By the way, OJ Simpson was there because I was with these 4 blondes, and OJ Simpson just walks up, it was like crazy. One of them, she shows us a video. She's like, "Yeah, I hired this guy, and then I just fucked him," and she's like bragging about it. She's like, "Yeah, I fucked him, blah blah blah, whatever." And all the girls are high fiving, and she's like, "Yeah, you go, girls! Like, I made all this money." And then she's like, then he called me later and he was talking about like some of his problems. And I was like, bitch, I didn't hire you to talk about your fucking problems. I just had sex with you on camera. Why are you fucking calling me, bitch? And like, she's talking to the male talent. That's what she's saying to him. And I'm crying, laughing. I'm like, I can't, she's like bragging to her friends, like, I don't know what this fucking loser keeps calling me. I was like,
wow.
I was dying laughing, bro. And then OJ Simpson walks up. It was like the most surreal night of my entire life.
That's so interesting.
It was so, and like they're all high five, like, yeah, girl, go get that money, get that bag, bitch. And it was like so funny watching this whole thing because I'm like, listen, I'm like you. I could not fathom having sex with somebody who did not really, 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 really want to have sex with me. I've never been in that situation. I'm not judging anyone. I've never paid for sex, so I'm not judging anyone who's done that before. Yeah. But I just, to me, I really like the idea of somebody just being nuts about being with me, and then like also there being other options for her, and then her still choosing me. That makes it even fucking better. I like that a lot. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And the other thing is like, if you're out there watching this, because I know I've had a lot of puritanical people, some of the podcasts I go on as a guest, a lot of the self-help community is filled with very somewhat puritanical, religious, right-wing individuals. There's no judgment because I'm like that sometimes too, but they're very judgmental on when I have OnlyFans girls on my podcast, and I'm like, dude, if somebody is having consensual sex with their wife or with their husband and you have a problem with it, bro, how does that make sense to you? Like, again, it's just that they're filming it. It's like it's not even morally ambiguous. They're choosing to have sex with somebody they want to have sex with. So I totally understand where you're coming from when it comes to that. The other thing that I found is that how many girls that I've talked to before, Brandy talked about this before. I have a couple of friends of mine. I'm not going to say their names because I don't know if they want me to put them on blast, but they've said before, whenever I meet someone new that I want to date, one of the considerations I have to make is, would he be willing to film with me? Right? And I've asked several girls this question before, and I actually got this question from Monica coming on here and actually saying this. Would you ever consider being in a monogamous relationship with one dude and still filming with other people professionally?
So did kind of similar to that. Like last year, but we were technically in an open relationship,
Mm.
but I don't think he ever had sex with anyone else. But he was, yeah, when I was with Monica and her husband, actually, and that was like when we first met. And I remember our first date, he's like, I don't think I'm ready to be in a fully monogamous relationship right now. And I was
Mm.
like, well, I'm about to fuck my friend and her husband in a couple days. So, like, that's cool. But in reality, I was like, it was weird because then it was like one day I did a collaboration with another influencer. And then, I call him afterwards and he's literally like out with a girl. And I'm just like, I feel like you were only out with her because I was doing like a collab with somebody else. And of course he said no, but I'm like, I'm not stupid,
Did he did he
But to
did he express a problem? This is so fascinating to a
no.
lot of people. The idea of, because for men, so another great study, I love this. When men cheat, women ask, "Do you love her?" When women cheat, men
Mm,
ask, "Did you fuck him?" Generally, this comes from Dr. David Buss
yeah.
in the book right behind me. That generally this is the way. This is not 100% of the time. So it's very different. Whereas when you ask women, "Would you rather the man be in love with someone or have sex?" And you ask the man, "Would you rather her be in love with someone or have sex?" About something like 86% of the women are like more threatened by him being in love with someone else, even though they don't have sex, and
Yeah.
97% of the men are more threatened by the sex. So for women, the cheating is the lying, and for men, the cheating is the penetration. And so that's a very
Yeah.
big difference between the two genders. So now you're in a situation where you're in an open relationship with this guy. Did he ever express that he had a problem with the fact that you would film with someone else outside the relationship, or
No,
he just
and he
manifested
had
about going out with someone else?
yeah, and that's the thing too. I don't really know if he never hooked up with somebody else, but 'cause to me it was like more of like just the freedom, like
Yeah,
the idea of that like I guess the fantasy for him.
yeah.
But he had dated like a porn star. He was married to a porn star like years ago, like he was older than me. And so like it was like that. So it was like that similar situation. So he was very much like supportive of it. He's like, if you wanted to do a gangbang, you really felt like it was going to help your career, like I would be okay with that. But I always felt like it was not, that was like the whole truth. And then I was like, I'm like, I'm at the point in my life that I don't want to be with somebody who feels like they need to have sex with another girl just for validation.
Mm.
Because we were emotionally monogamous. So, if he was going to have sex with another girl, it would just be to get his dick wet. And I'm just like, I don't, that's not like I'm like very sacred with my energy and I don't like that's like, that's something in your head that you need to figure out like why can't you find that within yourself? Because he also told me he just didn't want to be alone and that's why he went out with the girl. Like, dude, I've been gone not even 24 hours. Like the fact that
Have,
you can't be like alone with yourself.
have you ever had your testosterone estrogen levels checked?
Um, yes,
Do you,
but I don't
you
remember
don't remember?
why.
So this is another common topic on here. So men on average have about 17 times as much testosterone as women do. And so because of
Yeah.
that, I try to explain, if you ever read a study about a woman who takes anabolic steroids, maybe for like a weightlifting competition, one of the things they say is like, my sex drive was insane. The words they use are insane and
With the
incontrollable with the
testosterone,
testosterone.
because there's more,
But
yeah.
the thing is, they're describing a testosterone level that I have right now, right?
Hmm.
But I'm so used to it. For me, it's not insane. It's just Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
This is the thing. If I talk to my guy friends about this, like, who here thinks that Selma Hayek in Dusk Till Dawn? Here thinks she's hot? 100% of guys will be like she's hot. Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street. Who here
Wolf of
thinks
Wall
she's hot?
Street, yes.
100% of guys most women would think she's hot too. And then so when you ask women, you're like, oh, Post Malone. Well, if you're into tattoos on your face, you're like, oh, he's hot. But some women might not think he's
Yeah.
hot, right? Or The
Yeah.
Rock, or like different people. For women, there's more divergence. For a man, if a woman was hot enough and he could get away with it, and you could go fuck behind a dumpster, he would say yes. Women generally don't work that way, right? They need a little bit.
Yeah.
They need some comfort in order to feel that way. So now you're in a situation where, as a man, like sex is so much more validation for us because I'm
Mm,
trying to think the best way to explain this is about, like, as a man, there's no way to describe what 1100 total testosterone feels like until you've experienced it. Like, you talked about the guy before who wanted sex all the time. It's like
yeah.
there's no filter. If you've ever been with a bunch of drunk army, I was in the Air Force for 4 years. Sometimes I'd be on an army base and I'd hang out with these army guys and they would get drunk and they would fuck anything. anything. There's a study called the beer goggle effect, where as we get closer and closer to closing time, what men will tolerate as far as like, short-term sexual partner, because it gets to the point where it's embarrassing. Women don't generally work that way. When women look for short-term sexual partners, they're more attractive than their long-term partners. When men look for when men look for short-term sexual partners, they're less attractive than their long-term partners. It's really weird. You ever hear women?
Crazy.
You ever hear women? They're like, "Oh, I can't believe he cheated on me with that fat, ugly pig." I was like, "Yeah, because he right." But do you understand? Like, it's hard for me to describe as a man what it's like for a man to want to have sex, because I don't think it. When your free testosterone, when your total testosterone is 100 and mine is 1100. You see, like, the difference. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know many women who can bench press 375. So like, it's very different how we're built, right? So as men, we're supposed to compete with each other and go hunt and go fucking fight each other and compete for women, and so it's very different. And that's why like men will fuck anything. And like the other issue is this: most good-looking guys that are wealthy or tall or whatever, women notice those guys. And so if I tell a woman this, so 26% of men report having 0 sexual partners in the last year. 26% of men. It's not women. 26% of men. When I tell women that, a lot of times they're like, that can't be true. Like, all these guys that I meet here, they're fucking whores. They sleep with all these. It's like, no, you noticed the VIP host and the male stripper and the fucking the guy who used to be a male stripper who's the DJ at a strip club. You notice those guys, right? You notice the bartender you don't notice the cashier at Walmart. You don't notice him. If you ever get a chance, go to Walmart and be like, who's fucking that guy? And you'll be like, oh, okay. Yet 26% of men are having 0 sexual partners. Like 44% of men have like 1. And so you get to a point where there's a small group of men, and throughout history, it's always been like this. In every two gender mammalian species, you'll have a small number of males having sex with a large number of females. And so you'll see guys be like 3 partners, 4 partners. The average North American male has had 7 sexual partners in his entire life. 7. In his whole life.
Really?
So now we're in the 60th percentile. 7. So just imagine this is an entire graph of all the men having sex. When we get all the way up to the 60th percentile, we're at 7. Then when we get to the 80th percentile, we're at like 400. It goes from 7 to 4. So this is what it looks like when dudes have sex. It goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 100, 200, 400, 1500. It goes like that. Does that make sense? Then you're like Bilzerian and fucking Hugh Hefner up here at the top. So that's the way it works. So for women, it's way more normally distributed. Whereas men, it just goes like this. It's like a hockey stick. Make sense?
But why is that?
Because you don't need, it's not egalitarian. You don't, if you have a population of 100 men and 100 women, you only need 20 of those men to impregnate all 100 women. So what happens is you end up having a small group. This is the same thing with elephant bull seals. This is the same thing with gorillas. This is the same thing with like bovine bulls. This is the same thing with gazelles. The same thing with lions, tigers, same thing with coyotes. You'll have a few males at the top that will physically compete for access to the females, and then they'll have like a harem. And depending on how polygynous or polyamorous, so for instance, bonobos, they actually share partners, so it doesn't work like that with them. All the males end up having sex.
Okay.
Whereas with gorillas, a lot of people don't realize this, the majority of Homo sapien males that have been born on this planet died a virgin. The vast majority died a virgin. Like not recently, not since the 1900s, but before that, the vast majority died a virgin. The vast majority of tigers, the vast majority of fucking gorillas die without ever having sex. So that's the kind of way the whole thing works. Great book on this. It's called Why Women Have Sex by Dr. David Buss and Sidney Meston. I would recommend. If you ever want any of these books, I'll give them all.
Okay.
I'll give them all to you. But that book goes over this specifically. There's one peasant woman who lived in Russia. She has the record. I believe she had 64 children. I believe she had something like 3 triplets and like something like 5 or 6 sets of fucking twins. And some people say that the story is apocryphal. That's not true. But like, she's kind of the record holder for most children as a female. The most children as a male is Mubarak the Bloodthirsty of Morocco, I believe, who had 800 and something children. I believe that's the record, right? So for a man,
let's go.
So you need fewer men to populate than you need women. Does that make sense? So what ends up happening is you have a large number of men who are at the bottom of the scale and end up working, later in life as no shout out, no disrespect, but like you're a cashier at you're doing the drive-through at Jack in the Box, and then there's a group of men who are like the tall, good-looking lawyer who drives a Maybach who's had sex with 400 women. Those are both men. They're just in different scales. Whereas for a woman, if you're physically women far less attractive than you that can have sex with any night they want, right?
Absolutely.
So it's very different. For a man, if anything's wrong with a dude, it's very hard for him to find any sexual partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
See, when you first brought that up, I thought you were gonna talk about how like successful men are able to like harness their sexual energy and that are like focused more like, you know, entrepreneurs on like building their business and
Yes.
knowing if they're just like letting their seed go all the time, that's gonna like distract them. That's how
So
I thought you're going
So
with
so
it.
so there's some interesting studies on that. So I'm on TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy, because I'm almost 45 years old. And so
Yeah.
when I got on that, I will tell you one of the things that happens is you don't realize it until it happens. So if you have low vitamin C, you have scurvy. And it's happened slowly over time. But when you get vitamin C, all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, this was really bad. I had severe vitamin C deficiency. If you guys have ever, I used to fly in the Air Force. We would fly sometimes missions over Iraq, and we turned the cabin air pressure, the internal cabin altitude pressure to like 14,000 feet. And so what would happen is I didn't realize I was suffering from hypoxia. Like I was like having trouble reading stuff. I put an oxygen mask on and all the colors just like came back into the room because you don't realize you're
Wow.
suffering from hypoxia until you get oxygen. It's the same thing with testosterone. I just didn't feel like I wanted to have sex with my girlfriend because that was just normal. We'd been together for over a year, so blah, 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 whatever. And then they start sticking that
Hmm.
needle in my butt and I was like, God damn, like all of a sudden everything tasted better. Like I could focus. I built a 7-figure business right after I started taking tests. Like it really completely different, the level of focus that I was able to achieve because of that. So I definitely understand what you're saying. But the thing is with exogenous testosterone, I can regulate my testosterone levels even if I am having a lot of sex. It doesn't make any difference. There are 2 studies, one of them that shows that if you have a lot of sex, your body will produce more testosterone, but we're talking about like 10% more. However, if you don't
Hmm.
have sex for 4 weeks, something like your body is going to produce 300 times as much, 300% more testosterone. So actually, this is the reason why they tell boxers to not have sex like 3 or 4 weeks before they get into the ring. This is the reason.
Yeah.
That's the reason why that happens. So those are 2 really interesting studies. Hey, sorry guys, for those of you like I've gone on several rants on this episode and I didn't mean to, but she's asked some really interesting questions. She's asked some very interesting questions. So yeah, that's really cool. The other thing I was going to ask you about is in your career, we had Nara Ford on here, and she talked about originally she was selling like sex tapes for $200, and now she sells them for like 20 because the industry has become somewhat saturated. Because there's a lot of girls who jump in initially, don't have a huge following, and they're just willing to go to whatever links in order to get fans. Have you seen this to be an issue?
I don't like to ever believe things are saturated, you know, because it's like there's for as many, you know, creators there's millions of consumers. So it's like, you know, I could look back at you know, in 2020 when it was like the height of COVID and the height of OnlyFans and be like, yeah, I was making, you know, X amount of more money and now it's more challenging. It's not because like, oh, there's more creators necessarily. It's like because the site is like fucking up or because people are actually outside, not like inside doing as much. And it's like just the market is constantly changing. So it's like, yeah, there are more creators. That's like part of it. But it's like to me, that's like if you focus on that, that's like focusing and creating like a lack mentality where it's like, or I could be like, instead of like, oh damn, all these other girls, I could be like, okay, like what other strategies can I create to better do this? Like a couple months ago, I was like, all right, I'm actually buying half as much promo that I used to be buying, so I'm gonna double up on that. And I was able to, you know, make $50,000 more a month than I was previously
What
before that.
do you have numbers on your ROI for promo?
Everyone asks me that. It's
I'd be really
insane.
interested to know. Like, is it like 20 to 1 or is it 2 to 1? Do you know, like,
Um, it would be more like 20 to 1. It's like
wow.
no other industry because I've had other, you know, people and businesses tell me and like I, you know, feel kind of dumb to not know the exact numbers on it, but it really just depends. Like for example, we do things called guaranteed gains where we so in general when I say promos, I pay to be on someone's page
Yeah.
or we exchange promo and you know, she's on my page, I'm on her page. So with guaranteed gains, like I pay to get she's going to promote me to get say you know 500 subscribers and usually it's like through free trial which that's just you know how the market has been created and girls will say that too and it is a thing it's you know if a bunch of girls are selling things for a lower price you kind of got to compete with that so I do get where Nora was coming with that um but it's also just sell anything, sell for a lower price and get more. You know, like this isn't fucking Versace. You know, like there's a million sex tapes out there, and like that's what you mean. But it's like there's a million other girls that look like me or look like her, and it's more about not that content, but it's about creating that bond, like I was mentioning before, between you and the fan. So but with the ROI, it's like, you know, I pay say $400. I literally just need like 2 or 3 of those 500 guys to go through like a complete sexting funnel with me, and I've already made my money back.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. That is like
Yeah.
nuts. I mean, most guys are like lucky if you get 2 to 1 ROI for ad spend, and you're getting like 20
Yeah.
for promo, because that's your version of ad spend, right? You can't go on
Exactly.
you can't go on
Yeah.
Instagram and be like, hey, check out my new stepbrother video, right? It doesn't work like that on IG, right?
No.
By the way,
No.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, but I'm like, but even more so now, like I honestly made my first million without even being on social media. So it's like, but now it's more, and personally, especially for me, it's more about creating a brand and creating longevity
Yeah.
and also creating that connection outside of the site because I did everything like internal promotion. So it's like, it's hot leads, which is great, but it's like now it's like more it's more of like, oh, the guy sees you outside of the site with your clothes on. He's like genuinely interested in you
Yeah.
instead of seeing, like probably a nude or something on some other girl's site that he's like already on there. And it's like kind of desensitized to all of that. So it's always just like any other industry. It's finding out how to diversify your advertising. And like I pay to be on other girls' Instagram pages and stuff too. And it's like, I may not be getting 500 followers from there, but it's like, like on OnlyFans, but it's like I might be getting, say, 1,000 and a couple of those are going to trickle in, but they're like, organic leads where they like are genuinely interested in you instead of you just kind of being like another model.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, that's crazy. That's yeah, man. Those kind of numbers are pretty nuts. Like you wonder how far you could scale it. I'm wondering. You talked about also a niche, right? So I think when you talked about before about it being oversaturated, it's not oversaturated if you dominate a niche. And you mentioned before that you accidentally kind of got into this stepbrother, stepsister niche on OnlyFans.
I mean, that's like very the last couple years. I mean, even I'm sure before I was really doing this is like just the whole like family thing.
Yeah.
Is like that's like probably like the biggest like taboo thing that's been around and like everybody and like I feel like that's like overdone, but like there's something about it where if it's like, oh, like, oh, I fucked this guy, but it's like, oh yeah, I fucked my stepbrother. Because I think it is like it's so like taboo and like and that's another thing. I'm like, oh, I like to create a safe place that maybe a guy isn't gonna try to fuck his sister and is just gonna like, live out that fantasy like online. Cause it's like I do that as like, I have videos and I do that as like sexting role playing and stuff like that too. And it's like I personally not into it. But I find it, like I said, I find it a safe place. Like I'm not doing like animal stuff or like underage or anything like that.
Right.
And that's also a big thing too, like the whole like daddy daughter, role play and stuff
Sure.
like that. And I was more into it. I have baby girl tattooed on my knuckles, and I used to be like baby, like baby girl Bella, and I've actually wanted to divert away from that because actually the last guy I was talking about that we're in an open relationship, he was extremely into it.
Oh.
Where it like kind of disgusted me. And to not even, okay, and this because psychology stuff, he actually had allegations that he like molested his daughter and he fought them and everything. And I want to say he didn't because I've seen him with his daughter and stuff. But then I'm like, dude, the fact that you're so into this and that like there was never a time we had sex that he wasn't like saying some like, oh, like hopefully mommy doesn't find out and like wanting me to say like, oh, like how old are you? I'm like, I'm fucking 32 years old, bro. Like I'm like, I'm not gonna say I'm underage. Like, so yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm like, I always want to think the best of people, but I'm like, there's too many like, out like yeah. So I think, but I've also heard that a lot of people in the BDSM world are like, there's studies saying that they've actually not had any trauma or any actual like situations like that they're just into that. So like, I don't know.
Wow.
Your face.
I'm so fucking vanilla, girl. You just remind me how fucking vanilla I am.
Because it's cute. Like I get it. Like to me, the whole daddy thing is more of like a dominant thing. Like, oh yes, daddy, like
Yeah,
that
for
kind
sure.
of thing. But not like, yeah, like, oh yes, daddy, like help me with my homework. Ha ha ha.
That's
Like
crazy. Yeah.
that's too much for me. And like it killed the vibe for me. I'm like not into it at all anymore.
Wow. 2 books I recommend for everybody is Everybody Lies and Dataclysm, where they actually go over the stepbrother, stepsister phenomenon, where it started and where all those porn sites started. Yeah, it's really fantastic set of books because they go over what people actually believe based on Google and porn searches. People are, because Google and porn searches tend to be anonymous, people tend to be a lot more open or the reporting tends to be more accurate. Like for instance, the number of people who look up homosexual porn on Brazzers or whatever, or the number of people who are actually deep down racists. You'll find that out basically by their Google searches. And so that this book looks at Google searches and is able to tell what people are into. Also, the other thing that's really great about Dataclysm is it goes over dating websites and it shows that women tend to lie more about age and weight, and they tend to change their photos and appearance, whereas men tend to lie more about income and height. And so these are.
I knew you were gonna say height.
Yeah. So these are things that are. I still can't believe you're 13 inches shorter than me. That's just like blows my mind.
But let's talk about the height thing though, because I'm sure there's some studies about that, and like that's really what it is. I've never even cared, and then for like a little while, the past couple months, I was like, oh no, but I'm literally shorter than like everybody. So it's like, but what is that? Like, what happened that in society where it's like, oh, like men need to be tall to like have worthiness for women?
So it's again, so whenever you have any sort of proclivity for anything, you can trace it back to evolution. The fact that you may want a guy with a more symmetrical face or a V-shaped torso, or the fact you like vanilla ice cream, or the fact that you like to have sex in this position, or the fact that you like blonde hair, or the fact that you like cats or whatever, you can find a reason for it in evolution. So as far as tall, it's one of these things where as a man, when we look at a woman, the genetic information or the information we need as to know whether or not we want to have sex with her, because sex is such a low risk thing for a plasticine man. Whenever I make these examples, I'm talking about cavemen. I'm not talking about men today. But 50,000 years ago, there's like less than 100,000. There's like fewer than 100,000 Homo sapiens on the planet. Maybe like 200,000 years ago. When that caveman, for him to have sex with a random woman, it's a very low cost, low risk thing for him. If he gets the wrong woman pregnant, it doesn't affect him at all. Does that make sense? Okay.
Because he's probably not taking care of the baby.
Well, he is or he isn't. It's up to him, right? For a woman, it's a life or death situation. This is why women are far more picky than men. Women are far more better at like trying to read facial expressions and trying to suss out whether or not the guy is actually like trying to be. Remember, you get your validation from him caring about you. Your ex got his validation from you having sex with him. You see the difference? Like, so for instance, for a man, our validation, because we don't know paternity certainty until like maybe the last 50 years. Before that, as a man, I don't know which one of these men got her pregnant. I hope it's me. And so what I do is I keep her alone in the cave away from the other men so that I can ensure that I'm the one who got her pregnant. This is why men act jealous. Jealousy is not some immature reaction. It's actually an evolutionary tool. So now, so here, to a certain extent, you can go overboard with that. So now when you deal with this whole situation, where what were we talking about before? From evolutionary with the tallness. For some women, how am I able to tell what? For you, I can see symmetry, right? Hip to waist ratio, your boobs, your hair. By the way, the reason why women like to have long hair or blonde hair later on in life is because it's genetically impossible for a woman past the age of 35 to keep platinum blonde hair. Not even women in Norway can do that. As you get older, your hair gets darker. It just does. So you showing your hair being like platinum blonde like it is right now, that's actually a sign that you're younger. Does that make sense? Also, you ever notice you cannot tell the age of a woman from behind when her hair's fake? You cannot tell how old she is, right? So that's the thing. Also, here's the other thing. Me, let's say I'm in Africa, and I see you and your hair's down to here, and it's your hair is healthy and long. It tells me this is almost like a medical report showing that you've been healthy for the last 3 years. Does that make sense? Because so these are the reasons why we as men tend to like seeing that long hair on women or whatever. And then a certain hip to waist ratio would indicate, okay, when we were breeding with women that had a different hip to waist ratio, they were less likely to have children because they had too narrow of a birth canal, stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing. For you as a woman, there's way more information you have to get. For me as a man, I was like, she's hot, ready to go, sex time. Very little risk. For you as a woman, it's nothing but risk. You have sex with the wrong dude and get pregnant, you will be ostracized and you and the child would die. This is, again, we're talking about cavemen, not talking about 2022. Okay. Girl, go get that bag. I'm not talking about you right now.
Right.
Okay. Do whatever you need to do. So that's essentially what happens. Now, so you have to very quickly suss out which guy you want and which other guy you don't want. One of the very quick things you as a woman can see is height. Okay. You can also see masculine features on a man. It's actually masculine features that women tend to be more attracted to, not handsomeness, right? It's like it actually has to do with like their brow and their jawline and their like sometimes facial hair. Those tend to be the things, or how their voice sounds. Those tend to be things that women are more attracted to. I saw a study the other day: 71% of women's attractiveness towards men was upper body muscle. Right. Again, this is not something we as men, I don't look at a woman's upper body muscle. I'm like, God damn, let's have kids. I don't ever try to do that. Right.
The pecs though.
Yeah. I got those pecs. Girl, you look like you've been doing a lot of push-ups. Congratulations. But do you understand what I'm saying? So as a woman, like you have so many other things that you have to suss out. Whereas like you look at a dude and like, think about all the things that for guys that they're watching. If you're a woman and you're looking at a dude, I can't tell if he's rich or fake rich. I honestly don't know whether or not he's kind because I haven't talked to his friends. I don't know if he's terrible in bed or if he's good in bed. I don't. You don't. As a woman, you don't know whether or not that's true. What are a few things I can tell? I can tell the diameter of his arms, whether or not he's strong and might be able to protect me. And if he's taller, he's going to have an easier time to be able to protect me than if he's shorter. Now, there are certain cultures, Polynesian cultures, where the men who are alpha actually kill whales. In order to, they stand on the tip of these boats and they throw spears at whales. Shorter men actually do better in those cultures. Women find shorter men more attractive in those cultures because for the selection pressure is for shorter, more nimble, athletic men as opposed to taller men. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting study. But for most women, in most cases, sorry, this was a very long answer. I apologize. That's the reason why women tend to like height.
I figured it was kind of like a protection thing.
It is a protection thing, but if you think about everything from an evolutionary standpoint, then it makes way more sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Sorry. If you have any other questions like that, I love those type of questions. But
that's
what we talk about all the time. Did you have a question?
No.
All right, here we go. This is the other thing I want to ask you about. Let's get into this. So you actually said the word pain body. In 2006, my father was killed by a drunk driver. And then I got deployed to the Middle East. My girlfriend broke up with me, and I came back, and I was in what the closest thing I can describe is depression. I got back from my first tour in Iraq and Afghanistan, and my buddy gave me a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that was the first time I had ever heard of a pain body. And I remember, and I had a friend of mine, one of my clients, just last week, he said, I read the first 3 chapters of that book, and I pulled over on the side of the road and started crying. And I was like, bro, that's exactly what happened to me. For people who have suffered enough, if you read The Power of Now or A New Earth, the book is the most profound thing you've ever read. If you have not suffered enough, you're going to read that book and it's going to sound like a bunch of woo-woo bullshit. So it just depends. When I give it to people and they have not suffered enough, they're just kind of holding on. They're making like not that much money, but enough money to where they're kind of getting by and they're like still in the rat race. Those people tend to not like resonate with the book. The people who have been just like completely smashed to the ground, gone over a horrible drug addiction, been cheated on, or had a bunch of money stolen from them, those people tend to get the book. Was that book influential to you?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And I think it's going so far into the dark, you're able to go such more into the light. And I've had, many people that I've been connected with that were like, I think that's why you're able to go so far, because you've gone through like so much shit, and like everybody has trauma, no matter what, like big T, little T trauma and stuff like that. Like you could have a ball thrown at you in friggin' school, and that could like have caused all these other like things in your life. But it's like the severe stuff is like what's really able to make you like go the other way and like all of that. Because I have a very colorful life, and I used to do a lot of drugs and drinks and stuff like that too, and honestly, what started it for me is that I was prescribed Xanax and Adderall for 7 years, and I decided to finally get off of them. And I started to like care about myself. Like I was so just like, whatever the word is, I hated myself because I was conditioned to hate myself. My parents were like, pretty much like, you suck. So I like grew up thinking that way, and I just kind of thought that's like how life was.
Your biological parents, or are we talking about the parents
Yeah.
Okay.
My biological parents were very much like, you're not enough, like you're hypersensitive, like all of that, because they're projecting from like their own pain. So that was always engraved in me, and I was like very much like, I need to hate myself into like succeeding. And I know a lot of people are like that, and then I got off the Xanax and I was like, man, like I started getting into fitness and like finally got a therapist and was like really starting my like self-love journey. And then I I was dating somebody and they got arrested and I was like with them and that was like very traumatizing to me because my parents got arrested when I was younger. So I was like, man, like why does this stuff keep happening to me? Because and you know, I'm sure you know like the whole like spiral theory and stuff like that. Like these same things happen in our lives and it's like how we heal from them or we react to them or whatever. So about a month after that, I was just like on the YouTube, you know, life or whatever, and I came across these videos just talking about we're like, you know, these infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And I was like, this all makes sense now. And like 4 days later, like I quit smoking weed. I was like waking up and smoking dabs and then smoking a blunt. Like I was like heavy into it. And then I became raw vegan and I just like went down the rabbit hole like so far. And I haven't, and that was like 3.5 years ago. And like, I just felt like deep into my spirituality and like read The Power of Now and like all of the things. And I did ayahuasca and like, I'm just like such a different person. I completely rewired my brain to like how I used to be, where it was like, I would wake up like in such panic and just like was like very reactive to life instead of like, oh, like I can create my life. Like I can wake up and I can choose to have a good day. And even if like bad things happen, like I can still choose to, you know, feel a certain way. But then on the other spectrum of it, it's like it's okay to feel your feelings and to be sad and all that, because if you just suppress them and act like you're fucking happy all the time, like you're not actually going to heal all these things that happen to you in life. And like also I'm like I could go on forever, but I'm like, and healing's not linear. Like I earlier this week, like I was going through like all of this stuff that I'm still just needing to process. And the thing is, it's like when you choose this journey of like self-development or like the healing journey, it's not easier than just kind of like sleepwalking and living on autopilot, but it's so much more fulfilling.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Have you ever read Have you read the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson?
I started to. It wasn't really my vibe.
Really interesting. Have you read Have you
Yeah.
read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle?
Yes.
Okay, you
Yes.
like that? I
I'm
like.
more. I'm like queen woo woo.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, it doesn't. For those of you who are listening to this, and you know, I have a background in physics. It's not that woo woo. I know the way he describes it is, but the reality of the situation is, think about it from an evolutionary perspective. The guy who sits at home, resists all of his feelings. Okay, does not take action. Evolutionarily, are you going to be rewarded for taking action, going to kill the gazelle, or maybe that's we could use a better example if you're raw vegan, the person who goes out and does the thing to protect the tribe, or the person who stays in and feels sorry for themselves? Obviously, the reward center in your brain is going to reward you when you are in the present moment, because the person in the present moment is doing the building, doing the protecting, doing the hunting, doing the things that they need to do in order to increase the survivability of the tribe. This is the reason why I think that the present moment awareness is just so important for people and so psychologically healthy. Is there woo-woo parts of it? For sure. I mean, I could believe that as well. But I know from an evolutionary standpoint, it also makes sense for
Yeah.
because here's the thing.
Metaphysics too.
We get into a situation where I have the ability to sit there and be neurotic and consider every portion of my life because I'm not starving. I have the ability to sit there and triple analyze every portion of my life because I have enough money to make it to where I don't ever have to work again, or I live under a roof where I don't have to worry about like overheating or dying of hypothermia or any kind of disease. After 1947, we had broad spectrum antibiotics. The birth rate, child mortality just went into the near zero. All of a sudden we had a population explosion. We had 1 billion people in 1900. We have 8 billion people on the planet now. All these things happen where we live in a world now where we are afforded this ability to worry that I didn't make enough money on OnlyFans this week, or the stock price went down, or my fucking Bitcoin got cut in half. We have the ability to worry about those things because we're so far away from a survival scenario. Whereas if we were in a survival, like I noticed when I went through boot camp, at no point was I depressed. I was just like, let's just make it through this. And so through that entire time, when I'm going through this struggle, all I could feel, I felt really happy. I look back on those times in my life and I'm like, it was very fun. You know what I'm saying? So I totally understand. For those of you who have a problem with the woo-woo aspect of this, there's an actual psychological reason why what Eckhart Tolle talks about in The Power of Now makes so much sense.
Yeah. And then just too, I feel like people, like the law of attraction is like such a thing, and manifestation is such like a trending topic. And unfortunately, spirituality too is kind of thrown into that, where like we mentioned earlier, of like the social media stuff where it kind of gets, I might call it lost in the sauce. But it's like, even with manifestation, it's like, oh, like I have a vision board. I literally put my Tesla on my vision board and yeah, I got a Tesla. because I fucking worked for it and I
Yes.
saved up the money and I bought it. You know, it's like, yeah, it's great to like put out these goals or manifestations or however you want to paint it, but it's like also the universe provides for you when you create massive action. You know, and then like what's her name? Leila Mazzoli? Um, something like that. She's like a CEO and she talks about where it's like, you know, if you take massive action, like stuff's gonna happen. That's the
Yeah.
thing, you know, even if you, because the thing, like, it's, you're gonna fail, and that's how you're gonna succeed is because you'll fail a bunch of times and you'll find what works for you. But at the end of the day, it's you're taking that action and putting that into, like you said, it's physics and everything too. It's into the universe.
It's very frightening. I feel like when people read The Secret and they're like, "Well, I'm just going to manifest this Lamborghini." I'm like, I don't think you understand how quantum mechanics works. You're not manifesting shit.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You're going to work for it, and that working for it, like again, a visualization is real. For sure, that's real. But the idea of manifestation without work is not real, and it's very dangerous because a lot of people got into that mindset where they believe they deserved the success and wealth, and I'm like, deserve ain't got nothing to do with it. You actually have to go out and work for it. And I think you as a successful content creator and me trying to be a successful content creator, it's a situation where I know I have to work for it every day. That's why whenever I see somebody who has a podcast or is doing something like what you're doing, I would never, ever hate on you because I know how fucking hard this is. It's so fucking hard to do this. And a lot of people, dude, when I see the horrible comments that I get on, like I did a flat earth video. I debated these flat earthers for 3 hours and 48 minutes. And like, there's over 1,000 comments of people calling me an idiot because all these flat earthers got on there and they just started calling. It's the same like 10 guys, but they make multiple accounts. So they're just calling me a piece of shit the whole time, and I'm like, man, this makes me feel this bad. I can't imagine what you must be going through with people hating on you, you know. And Nar Ford talked about people literally subscribing to her OnlyFans so that they could message her and talk shit to her. They're paying her to talk shit to her.
Yeah, that's how deep they are, like in their unconscious of awareness of like their trauma and stuff, because it's like, and that's what it is. I'm like, this isn't me. Like, no, everything that you like happens in life is people are projecting from like their own inner pain, because it's like, and that's why I say sometimes to people, I'm like, I hope you're doing okay, because what happened to you that you feel like you need to come say something rude to somebody you literally don't even know on the internet, you know, like, and that I've had people too, like, pay so they can say fucked up shit to me. I'm just like, it's wild. And my current partner, he does like e-commerce, and he's like, you know, sometimes like I wish I could just do the stuff that you do. Not saying that it's easy or anything like that. He's like, but it's like with me, it's very just, you know, e-commerce stuff, like you're mechanical and machines and this and that. I'm like, yeah, but just, you know, how about you go read the fucking comments and shit like that, and like the more like the psychological effects of it, you know. And it's like I try to avoid it, or, you know, I still do obviously interact and stuff like that, but just not with the rude stuff. But it's like, you know, catch me on like an off moment or like kind of sleepy or something, and I'm like, I'm gonna respond and I'm gonna be like, oh, ha ha ha. And I'm like, but that's exactly what they want, but it's also helping the algorithm. So it's like this whole like
It is
weird
weird,
ass
isn't it?
like conundrum. Yeah.
I tell them where I live, and I'm like, come by, motherfucker, and tell you that to my face. For some reason, they never do. They never seem to want to come by.
Right? Is that weird?
By the way, those of you who want to talk shit on this video, Panorama Towers in Las Vegas, Nevada. You're welcome to come by. I will meet you downstairs and beat the shit out of you in front of my fucking security guards. You're more than welcome to come by. Listen, the YouTube video is free, and so is this ass whipping. If you want to come by and say that to my face. So anyway, the other thing I want to talk about, Katie, did you have something you want to ask?
I kind of lost my train of thought now.
Yes, you're very distracting. Katie walked in here just a little while ago. You also talked about as a as an entrepreneur, you have several different investments. Could you talk about a lot of girls? They got into OF. This is the first time they've had this much cash. What are some of the things that you put your money into?
Right now is just, you know, call me old fashioned, just like a lot of like stocks and stuff like that. I obviously have money in crypto and everything like that.
Do you invest in like VOO or SPY or anything like that? Do you use a brokerage? Do you use TD Ameritrade, or do you have a person that does it?
Yeah, I use brokers because, like, okay. I'll be real, like I don't know about all that, but I definitely, and to anyone, it's save your money, but don't save it, because I used to be like that too. I'm like, I need to have all this savings, but I'm like, you literally, your money depreciates just sitting in your savings account. So it's really about like diversifying portfolio, not, you know, to like in crypto, don't put everything in Bitcoin, you know, don't put everything somewhere, like don't put all your eggs in one basket. And definitely make investments, like think about your future, you know, like there's girls that are like, I have $200,000 of designer that I don't even wear. And I'm like, what is that doing for you? You know, like it's fun to buy things. More to me, it's like a symbolization of like how far I've come, or like, you know, a certain milestone, or just like feeling good about myself, like putting that good energy into it. But it's like, I don't need, most people do it for the clout, for the image. And that's
Yeah.
what they say. It's like, actual rich people aren't out here fucking buying, you know, $10,000 of Versace or these like flashy ass cars and stuff like that, you know? So it's like, and that's true, like, because they're thinking about their future, and like that, no matter what industry you're in, but especially as OnlyFans and stuff, like this shit isn't gonna last forever. Yeah, I could say I could be doing this for 20 years, like I look good and everything like that, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna have the platform that's gonna provide the income that it is currently.
Can you imagine, like, when you think about the incredible bullshit that men do to try to impress women, and like most of it, I'm just talking about the parts that aren't true, like the photoshopping and the elevated,
Oh yeah.
the elevated shoes and the fucking dick pic that they fucking Photoshop, and the goddamn whatever, the fake watch, the fake Paddock, the fucking Lambo that they rent. Dude, we can go on for hours, right? All this kind of shit that they do. And then they're doing this, right, because they want higher sexual selection. And then I look at a woman with a $50,000 Birkin, and I'm like, so you can fuck someone? Like, why? I don't understand.
What is it for?
Like,
yeah.
do you think I want to date you more because you got a Himalaya? I don't give a shit. I don't understand. Like, is this helping you get girls? Did you get a new job because of your Himalaya? I don't fucking understand the point of this. Again, I have a friend of mine. He buys Birkins, and he uses them to like for social media, and it works. If you were doing, and then he sells them, and then he sells them sometimes for more than he bought them. That makes sense. I understand.
Yeah,
if you're a guy, if you're a guy like Brad Lee, and you bought a fucking Ferrari, and you make these cool videos in your Ferrari, and you like driving your Ferrari, that makes sense. But if you're sitting there,
part of the brand, yeah.
If you're sitting there deliberately trying to impress other people, bro, like guys will do anything, and I totally understand why guys will do that, because some guys are devoid of a personality, so you got to do something else. But I don't understand why women are like spending all this money on these goddamn shoes. Like, who are you trying to impress? You know what I'm saying?
And realistically, because guys don't like that shit. So that guy is talking about, the last guy in an open relationship, I actually found him on a sugar daddy site. And the only reason I was on there is because I'm like, I need to find somebody that can keep up with me. And he was a fucking, he was a splendid daddy, if even, you know? So it's like, as soon as he found out like how much money I'm making and stuff, it's like, of course he wanted to get in the OnlyFans game. And like, I hope I'll be making as much money as you one day. And like, as it happened more and more, like, cool, he had a Tesla, I have a Tesla too. You know what I mean? Like, and just all this, like this Rolex, oh, he found that on the beach. Like, oh, we got matching Versace jackets. I paid for my own, you know? And like, that's the thing. He would prey on these younger girls that like, oh my God, you take me out to this nice dinner. Like, I can buy that shit for myself, you know? So it was like his whole like game and scheme was like dissolved, because I'm like, I make more money than you. And I'm like, and that doesn't matter, you know? Like, at the end of the day, like, the only reason to me that it matters to be with somebody successful is because like I need, I need somebody to keep up with me. And I also need somebody that's not going to make me feel like shit because I want to fly business, and they can't necessarily afford that.
That is pretty amazing. That is happening a lot there, where there's a lot of guys who I guess maybe get intimidated by the fact that they're dating somebody who makes more money. But like I said before, I've been in situations where I'm going out with a girl and she straight up is like, you have to film with me. And I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, because this is my job, this is my work. And it's like, I remember it was probably 2 years ago was the first time it happened. And now it's probably a couple dozen times.
It's all us girls.
You have to film with me. And I was like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, you have to do this. And I just remember thinking like, it's significantly changed the dating scene. Like, this is an added component to it, because it's it's life-changing amounts of money. You know, it's like more than realtors are making, like several $100,000 a month that you're making from doing this thing. And you're like, oh, well, I had some moral judgment about whether or not I want to fuck a guy on camera. And then it's like, but after the fourth house, fuck him. You know what I'm saying? Fuck him. I don't care.
Literally,
I don't care anymore. And I was just like, I as a joke, one time I was hanging out with my homegirl, and we're just friends. I wasn't trying to sleep with her. And she goes, hey, I just want you to know, like, I just see you as a friend. I was like, I see you as a friend too. I was like, but I'll film with you on your OF if you want. She goes, I'll go get my stuff. I was like, I was kidding. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you serious? And she's like, yeah, it's crazy. The dynamic has changed so significantly. And it's just really interesting because every guest I've had on here has talked about that. It was like, well, if you're not going to film with me, then I have to film with someone else. And that's why you brought that up before. Monica Holt was actually the first person to bring it up. She was like, "Oh, you should hire a male porn star. That way he doesn't have any feelings." I'm like, "No, girl, that's worse. That actually makes it worse.
Yeah.
That actually makes it worse." How do you find collaborations when you collab with people? Is it just really just totally organic? Just people you see on online?
On the street.
Huh?
No.
On the street? That is funny. You should make a vlog about that. I say, I just went on the street. Who's this guy? Man, we're filming. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Put a little collar on him.
Yeah, if people would be down. Yeah, that'd be interesting. So yeah, like I said, most of the people that I've collaborated with, I've been, in a relationship with, or
what was up with the females too?
Friends with. Oh yeah, the females. So yeah, a lot of times that's just like, my big community, like we're on Telegram and stuff, like for business things. So it's like kind of like vetting out the energy with that, or, even like online. Like I honestly, and not to be pretentious or anything, like I'm not going to be filming with girls that aren't successful. Like I've done that before, and it's not even just because of like, like a similar fan count or whatever, but it's like, most of the girls that aren't doing well aren't going to be about it as much. Like I've been that, like, hey, let's film. And they're like, nah, I don't know. Like, I don't feel good. I'm like, okay, this is why I'm making so much more money than you, So it's like, it's more about like the energy, but I also am like, I don't need to collab. That's the thing. Like, and I was, cause I'm supposed to be there in Vegas right now. And I was supposed to do, just like a TikTok collab with like a fitness dude. And I ended up canceling on him, which I'm not like that. But I was like, I don't need this. And I just got like really weird energy from him. So I'm just like, I literally don't need to collaborate or connect with anybody. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, this is a really interesting thing. So a lot of people, I know a lot of girls, they're like afraid to go on OF because they're afraid people will. So I tell them, like, if you put your stuff behind a paywall, it's pretty unlikely that somebody's going to steal it. And they're like, oh, no, what if it gets stolen and goes out there? And I explained to them that how aggressive. It's DMCA, right? How aggressive the DMCA people are at OnlyFans. Like they will go scoop your shit up and threaten to fine people and have like ISPs take away their service if people start stealing your accounts. Have you had to file a lot of DMCA complaints?
So that's the thing. OnlyFans doesn't give a fuck about anything. To be real with you, like it's kind of like Amazon's like $1 trillion company. Yeah. OnlyFans has so many fucking creators and shit. Like they really, unfortunately, don't care that much. And like when you bring up stuff, they're like kind of say like it's your fault. But they're like, I use a service. I think it's like cammodelprotection.com, and I've used them for years.
Oh, so you're using a different service. So it's not OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
I never heard anything about. No, they don't care. Okay. So it's like you use a different service, and then or you just make like an actual complaint. But like I have like hundreds of files taken down. So like the girls being tripped out about that, that's like very logical because it will happen. Like especially if you're big, it's the same thing as like if you don't have haters, like you're doing something wrong, like it's kind of like a numbers game. But that's the thing though, like it's actually like, I mean, I still get taken down, but like my thought, it's like, oh, these guys, especially say it's put on Reddit or just something of that nature, then these guys are going to want more stuff. And like, they're going to go to your site or they're not. And those guys were never going to pay for your shit to begin with. So who cares?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. Like it's free promo.
That is crazy though. How much that is. Did you ever hear Kanye West talk about, I don't go on OnlyFans. I just look at Reddit. I be stealing. Like this guy's worth $1 billion and he's like stealing. He's stealing content.
And he's like bragging about it.
Have you seen it where he's bragging about stealing content off Reddit?
No, but I mean, Kanye West, are we surprised?
He's like married to Kim Kardashian and he won't admit that he's paying for OF. So he's like, it's so fucking
That's
funny.
what I'm saying.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Like as much as like I said, I'm like, I only date entrepreneurs. Like I have like, a certain type and everything. But like at the end of the day, it's like the most reason like people want someone successful is in that. No, get yourself a fucking good dude who's not going to treat you like shit and who's going to be a real one. Because that's going to go further than some guy then can take you out to fucking steak dinner.
Have you, your attraction towards men, have you had a type and then that type has changed? Have these lessons that you've learned through meditation or through the pain and struggle that you've gone through, has it caused you to change? Because I have a problem. Like I have the same fucking type. Have you switched your type over time?
Absolutely.
What was it before? What is it now?
Like physically, that's the thing. Like when I was younger, like I would either be into like the kind of like Abercrombie looking guys or like kind of like skinny, like junky looking guys, But like now I'm like, I don't want a skinny guy. Like you know what I mean? I'm not.
Go ahead, just keep talking.
I don't want them to make me feel like I'm fat.
It's not even like that.
I was like that. But more so now compared to just in general, like I have to have a guy that's spiritually connected.
Okay.
You know, like that's like, because that to me, I realize like that's my number one priority and like my number one focus in life, because I feel like all of that expresses into everything else. So it's like I have to have someone that understands that and isn't gonna like feel like I'm pretentious and shit like that, because like that's important to me. But then it's also someone who is very business minded, because that's also very important to me. So it's not like, oh, someone who's the male version of me, because I need that polarity. But to me, it's also somebody that we can obviously both add value to each other, but someone that is going to teach me shit, especially if dating like older dudes. Like it's like, okay, you're older, but like I'm not learning anything from you. And like I dated somebody that was like 9 years older than me a couple of years ago, very successful. And it's like when I wasn't as successful at all. And he didn't teach me shit. I was just like, what was the point of this, you know? But like we were just like doing drugs and fucking off. So like and it's not like if I'm gonna date an older man, but to me that's like part of the like allure, where it's like, oh, like that's, you know, let me learn from you in like whatever aspect, you know.
So do you ever sell merchandise? Do you sell other stuff off OF?
I mean, actually, my merch line is coming out this fall.
Can I highly recommend you read every book by Russell Brunson, the 100 million.
Oh yeah, no, I've read some of his stuff. Yeah,
cool.
I love.
So let me highly recommend. Also, you should probably check out Nick Cosman as far as like about writing a sales offer. This has been life changing. We went from we did our first million in 10 months, and then since then we've quadrupled revenue since there. The system's broken to the point now where I don't have enough salespeople for my online program. So it's one of these situations where when you follow these successful people, man, the scalability, especially in your line of work and in mine, where it's completely scalable, there is no limit. There is like the 10x rule made no sense to me when I first read the book, and now when I'm in a scalable business now, it definitely makes sense. That's
on my next 10x
rule. I'll tell you 10x rule. There's not a ton of practical stuff in there, but it's still a pretty good book. I will tell you, like for us, we're like doubling ad spend today, September 1st. We're doubling our ad spend today, and we're going to go up 20% every week from this point forward. So we're going to double again every 3.5 weeks until we get to the point where it breaks. And we're just going to keep pushing this thing till it breaks, because the lesson I learned was, do you remember Ty Lopez? Do you remember, hey, here I am in my garage. Here's my Lamborghinis. I live in the Hollywood Hills. So I had Ty Lopez on here. He spent $16 million on YouTube ads when nobody was spending money on YouTube ads. And he made probably close to $300 million off that. Right. Right now we're doing 20-to-1 ROI. Like last month, I think we spent 4,000 on ads and we made 96 grand. So like it's one of these situations where we need to keep pushing until we get to the point to where the system breaks. So where something breaks, and right now it's like the number of competent salespeople, because that's another thing. But in your job, you don't really you are the salesperson, but in some of these other fields, that's one thing that's really, really important. So having a really good sales funnel, all that kind of stuff, I didn't understand. I thought my fulfillment was going to carry us. It's not. It really is a funnel. It really is salespeople, a funnel, marketing, understanding how the CPM for all these ads. And that's why I had Nick Cosman on this podcast. That's why I had Ty Lopez on this podcast. That's why I had Cole Gordon. Again, I tell anybody who is watching this who wants to run an 8-figure business, the most important podcast I've hosted is the one with Cole Gordon. And yet it's one of the ones the fewest of you guys watch. Cole Gordon runs he runs a $30 million sales team, $30 million a year. He does $2.5 million a month. And people are like, no, I want to watch the one where the girl talked about fucking 17 dudes. No, watch Cole Gordon first. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they don't want to hear that part. So that's the thing. Like if you guys want to do that, that's one of the things I like try to promote on the show is people understanding, trying to start a 7-figure scalable business. If you made it this far and you're watching this podcast, you should be able to do that. It's not otherworldly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's like my brand. I'm like, let me lure you in with my looks, but then like, hey, here's some spirituality, like here's some fucking like, you know, self-development knowledge. Cause that's what's attractive to me. Like fucking don't focus on all this other shit that doesn't matter. Like, have you made your first million? Have you scaled your business? Have you like bettered yourself as a person? Like that's really like the attributes that like bring you further in life, and that like is attractive. Honestly, I mean, yeah, maybe some basic ass bitch is not going to care about that because she can't even fathom or like give a fuck about that. But like, why would you even want to be with her then?
Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot reel them in with my looks. So you can do that. I can't. I don't really have that ability. So cool.
Well, you have me on your thing. So
I appreciate that. There we go. We're reeling them in with Isabel.
Go.
Do you have any cool, unusual beliefs? So there are things that are like outside of it, because you did talk about a little bit about spirituality. Is there anything that you believe, you don't think the earth is flat, or something outside the norm that that you believe that people might not know? Anything?
I mean, if I believe it, then I don't feel like it isn't not normal. You know what I mean?
Outside of one standard deviation, like the rest of the world might not believe it. Is there anything?
Um, I mean, just that, like, you know, like the Galactic Federation and stuff like that, of like, you know, people are like aliens, but that, like, there's like, you know, all just these different like dimensions of reality, and that like the underground facilities that's like our taxes are really being used for, and like, you know, like the word conspiracy was created by the CIA to fucking deflect people from what the fuck's actually going on, like stuff like that.
I may or may not have used to work for the CIA. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so
no,
you know.
So here's the thing. Have you read about panspermia? Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so there's this thing. If you go look in the polar ice caps, or if you look down near some of the volcanic vents that are at the bottom of the ocean, there's these very, very small organisms called tardigrades or water bears. They look like water bears. You can look them up. Some of these water bears were in stasis, meaning frozen for 50,000 years, and then they were thawed out and they reanimated. They lived. Does it make sense? But they're so small that like excessive amounts of force or pressure don't affect them, because once you get to that level of smallness, you don't really you understand what I'm saying? It's like inertia doesn't affect you kind of the same way. Okay, now. They took some of these tardigrades and put them into hard vacuum. They took them up into the ISS and they left them out in hard vacuum for a while, and then brought them back in, and they fucking lived. So
I think I've kind of heard about this.
So the idea of panspermia is not specifically tardigrades, but some evolutionary descendant of tardigrades that could deal with excessively high amounts of heat and excessively high amounts of radiation and excessively high amounts of vacuum, or like no pressure whatsoever, and excessively high amounts of cold and excessively high amounts of pressure. What those creatures would have been on an asteroid. So we already know the moon was formed by an object the size of Mars crashing into the Earth, which the remnants of that created the moon. Something like that, there would be an explosion, that thing would land on the Earth, and then that's where life came from on the Earth. So we would figure that out if panspermia was true, is if we ever go to Mars, we dig under the ground and we find the remnant of a living organism, and it has DNA, like we have DNA, then that would confirm panspermia. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So now you have objects that would be like creatures that would live in stasis for hundreds of thousands of years, traveling and populating different planetoids all around the galaxy. And that's how life spreads across the galaxy. It's just a theory, but it's a theory that's backed up by people who understand physics, astronomy, and science and biology. I just don't know if you've ever heard that before, but that's kind of a theory of where life came from on this planet.
I kind of have. I didn't hear about it being like a theory of, you know, of that, but I've heard about the frozen and and I believe in that shit. I don't believe obviously everything I hear, but I'm just like, I'm really into like esoteric shit, just like not, you know, flat earth. That's not my thing.
So here's we'll get to another unusual belief. So I ask every person that comes on this podcast, what are your feelings about traditional monogamy when it comes to humans? Is it something that was a natural state for us, or is it something that's man-made, or is it something we work for? Is it something that just automatically happens and we deserve it? What do you think about monogamy?
I think that it is man-made. Like, I've watched many things about, you know, it's like the evolution and everything like that, and then just, you know, different like tribes and stuff like that. Like sometimes it's normal to have like two men and one woman, or just like, you know, in other tribes where it's like the one woman and then many men, or you know, et cetera, or just like everybody raises the children. But personally, you know, I think that we do a lot of things that aren't necessarily natural. So it doesn't, you know, I've gone back and forth, like I, you know, mentioned, I've been in open relationships and I've been in monogamous relationships. And to me, currently I'm into monogamy, you know, like just because like I mentioned before, I'm just not in a place where like I feel like I want to be with somebody that needs like that validation of like hooking up with somebody else.
Yeah.
When I used to be like, you know, if it makes you happy, like it's fine, because it's like, you know, we're still together, and I know there can be that like detachment, and as long as it's like open and communicative, then I think that's super healthy. But I've also been in only toxic open relationships. And then when it comes like polyamory, I just like, I don't got time for that shit. I barely have time for like one relationship.
Do you do the people that you're with, are you able to separate if a man that you're dating, maybe not this current relationship, the sex they're having with someone else from the emotional connection? Are you able to separate that, or do you feel jealousy if they're with someone else?
I think that's scientific where it's like if you're not feeling some form of jealousy, that like that's I don't want to say there's something wrong with you, but there's some sort of detachment,
I mean,
because like but
do you find women attractive?
yes.
Okay. Because
I consider myself, I think it's called not hetero
hetero
what the word
Panel.
no, it's where you're sexually attracted but you're not emotionally attracted.
bi-curious?
No, it's like it's I forget what it is, but because I'm like sexually attracted to women, but I could never be
Got it.
emotionally with a woman. And even to the fact that like it's hard for me to say I'm bisexual because of that. Because
Yeah.
I'm like I wouldn't, I've obviously have had sex with girls off of camera and stuff too, but it's like never had that emotional connection. And then I'm point in my life now that I'm like I wouldn't, unless it was for work or whatever, that I wouldn't be hooking up with someone without that connection.
I would say probably you're 60-40 into men, or 70-30 into men, or 80-20 into men. Whereas like women that are bisexual, they tend to be like 60-40 into women.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I think women are beautiful creatures, but just not. It's honestly, I even have problems with connecting with women on any sort of level, and that's hashtag mommy issues that I'm still working out with, and I've worked through a lot. But it's also to me too. It's different where it's like I think it's really hot, if I'm with a man and like we're like with a girl, like seeing him be pleased by her, because we're like all involved and it's like a fun thing,
So
but it's like
there's no jealousy there, but the jealousy might
no.
be if he's okay. So if the two of you are together,
So to me, it's not like with everything in life, it's not like what's actually happening. It's like how it happened,
Okay.
So it's like
Yeah.
I said, like back, in my early 20s, when I was dating Sasha, like he would, was open, but he would do things. You'd bring a girl home, and be like, you better not come out here. And just like was very like malicious about it, where he'd like want me to be jealous and stuff like that. And it was like very unhealthy compared to like, let's openly talk about it. Or I dated another guy who, it was more of like he just wanted to get out of jail free card, and I had several different women that would come to me and try to create drama, and he was always like he would just block them. But I'm like, how about you have sex with girls that aren't going to try to come at me and like say something, because I just like, yeah, I know we're in an open relationship, like he's not in trouble, he's not going to leave me and be with you, so I think it's just about that. Like if you're gonna have that aspect of your relationship, it needs to have that openness. But I think a lot of people are attracted to that like drama.
I was in an open relationship, and the problem that would happen was because she was a big influencer, there would be girls that would come up to her and brag to her that they were sleeping with me, and they would come up to her and be like, "Oh, so and so, that thing in Michael's apartment? I like that thing," or blah blah blah, or they'd comment on something, and it was so huge, and I there was no way for me
humiliating.
There was no way for me to fix it. She'd be on the phone crying, and I literally had no way of fixing the situation. So my next relationship I chose where we will only have sex with other people when we're both in the same room, and that was it. That made it way better, and it was polygynous. So it wasn't polyamorous. It was just there's no other dudes. It was just polygyny. By the way, polyandry is multiple men. Polygyny is multiple women. Polygamy is men and women.
Okay.
Yeah, those are all Greek words. All right, cool. So yeah, that's interesting that you said, because I feel the same way. I completely agree with you as far as that whole situation.
Yeah.
Monogamy is a construct. There's no doubt about it. For those of you who have a problem with it, you can have monogamy. Monogamy is not a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just like a bodybuilder. When he's in peak condition, he has to work at it. If he stops working at it, he's no longer in peak condition. And if the two of you stop working on monogamy, then it goes away. That's why 56% of the marriages in this country end in divorce, and 78% of those divorces are initiated by women, because the reality situation is when she's no longer validated, she's going to end it. Men can cheat and they don't want to end the relationship. That's why 78% of divorces are initiated by women. When women cheat, it's time to switch the coach. They're trying to look for a new head coach. That's the reason why that whole situation happens. So it's a very different thing. It's very interesting. One last thing I want to ask you: if I made you Mark Zuckerberg for a day, what rules would you change on OF? I'm not on OF, on Instagram and Facebook. Or are there any rules that you would change?
Oh, just like let us have. First of all, let us have photos and actually that go out and mean anything anymore, not just freaking reels because they're trying to be like TikTok.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure a lot of people say probably about like nudity and stuff like that. Like I get it, and also like that creates more of an urgency to like go pay for my shit. That if like people are just posting tits everywhere, it's going to be more desensitized, which is a good thing for like overall society. I feel like because it's like free the nipple, like who cares? But it's also I really do feel like and actually I'm just thinking of this now, like it is like, these artistic pictures that are allowed to be shown because it's not that, but it's like, that's very different than like a picture that is like being sexualized because I want you to go buy my porn. So like, I understand that that's not that. But to me, it just be fix the algorithm.
Here's the problem. It's not sexual. The reason why I have an issue is that if I have a girl who's like 21 and has no boobs and she's wearing the same bikini you are, but because you have a bigger boob job, therefore what you're doing is sexualized and you are being sexually suggestive. And my point is, no, having boobs is not sexually suggestive. It's just having boobs. She's not fingering herself. She's not fucking herself with a cucumber. She's not doing anything sexually suggestive. Having curves is not sexually suggestive. We had terms of service back in 2014 where this wasn't an issue. That's the only thing I would change. I'd be like, just go back to 2014 terms of service. If a girl is not showing, if I don't see her fucking rectum, vagina, or her nipples, then she's not sexually suggestive. I don't understand why this is so confusing. And if you have here's the other thing I would change. Just like the U.S. judicial system, I'm innocent until proven guilty. If you want to suspend my account, I get a notice, and basically your account is under review. And until then, you get to keep your account.
Yeah.
Done. And people would stop false reporting because it would take 2 or 3 weeks for the account to go down. And then once they had a manual review, here's the other thing. Here's the last thing I would do. If you report someone for a thing and there's a manual review and that thing doesn't exist, your fucking account gets suspended. How about that? If you report Isabella James for impersonating herself or for animal cruelty and there's no fucking animals on her account and it turns out it's her, you get your fucking account suspended. Not only your account, all the IP addresses at that fucking sweatshop in Jakarta or Tehran, wherever you're making all these fake accounts from, they also get their account suspended. You do that, then we fix the fucking problems right there.
Yeah.
If I falsely... Go ahead.
Like evangelist over here. I'm just like, I wish the fact that I post so much and people would actually see it, But no, it is like but it's like to me it's insane. It's like the bigger that your account gets, it's like the less views you end up getting, and it's just like such a conundrum. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing I don't even think about. I forget I have such big tits. But yeah, that like anything I wear is automatically sexualized because I have larger boobs.
We all forgot. We all forgot. We didn't even notice. I didn't even know that they were fake. I didn't even know they were fake until you told me 3 minutes ago. Can you guys believe he had surgery? Can you believe that? I didn't know that. No idea. One last thing I want to tell you. So Coffee and Cleavage interviewed me, and then obviously I had Swedish Bella on here. They took the entire interview and put it on their OF. Like what you were talking about before with like the vlog or whatever. If you ever want to do that, you have my permission. A lot of people, they'll do an interview, and then they'll just put the entire interview on their OnlyFans because a lot of these I want to be the first person to ask you some of these questions that nobody's ever asked you before because I really enjoy, again, No Jumper is a great podcast. But they have a lane that I'm not going to go in. I do not care about how many dudes you've had sex with. I'm not the slightest bit interested.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not interested, but I'm not going to ask about it. Okay.
Yeah.
My job is to try to relate this to all humanity. Like we are all Homo sapiens. How do I relate this to other Homo sapiens? Well, I do that by getting to where were your emotions, what were the proclivities that you had as a child, and what type of men are you attracted to? Those are questions that you can ask through the lens of evolutionary psychology. That's why I wanted to do that. So I'm glad I got you to come on here. And describe a lot of the things that you're doing. I thought it was really good. If you ever have any questions about anybody specifically in the industry, or if you have any questions about anything specifically going on here in Las Vegas, please let me know. If you come out to Las Vegas next time, I wish you could have come out and judged the bikini competition with Monica. It was a lot of fun. I loved having her out here. So yeah, awesome. Where can we find you?
ineedbella.com has all of it.
Yeah.
And then, Spiritual Bimbo. You can Google Spiritual Bimbo, but yeah, just ineedbella.com has all my socials, my OnlyFans, everything like that. So ineedbella.com.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you soon. Hopefully you can come out here to Vegas and, just let me know if we could do this again. I would love to have you and Monica on the same time or somebody else that you want to have on. I like having several different people on the same time.
Dynamics. That'd be fun.
Having a different discussion. It's really awesome. We'll definitely check you out. Guys, we have a lot of really cool guests coming on. We're going in a lot of different directions. I'm really glad we finally got Isabella on. Listen, Listen, man, we haven't got canceled yet. A couple things I want to say. First off, 100,000 fucking downloads on Apple and Spotify. I cannot believe that. That's not including YouTube. I want to say thank you guys for all you guys are doing that, because those people listen to the entire episode. And then we got 3 million impressions last week on fucking on Instagram. So I want to say thank you to everybody.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. I do not have a blue check mark. I don't have big boobs, and somehow I was able to pull that off. And I want to say thank you to all the fans who came out there. Thank you for all the nice comments, and thank you to all the flat earthers who keep talking about me, keep talking bad about me. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are helping
love you.
helping the algorithm. When we do the next flat earth video, 100% Isabella's going to come on. I don't know.
Let's go.
You're going to do it? You're going to help me?
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can help me with that? Okay, beautiful. All right, guys, take care, and we will see you all next week.